What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am Zach, one of the hosts, and hosting with me is Chris. What's up, Chris?
Hello, everyone. Privyet, bonjour, Ohio gozaimasu. Thanks, everyone, for joining around the world, interwebs, hopefully Antarctica. Don't know if anyone's joined us from there, but it'd be awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's right.
Yes.
And as always, Jenny is back with us as we continue our Picard Season 3 review. Now, for those of you who have been watching us for a while, we've been going through Picard Season 3, episode by episode. And Jenny, you joined us, I want to say, around the 5th episode, right?
Yep.
I think it was. That's right. So welcome back. And we've been so happy to have you along on this journey with us.
I've been having a fantastic time doing this with you guys. It's really nice to just be able to really dig into it,
Yeah. We definitely like to dig into it. We talk about some really in-depth stuff. We talk about Phaser Blast 2 once in a while and some other fun things and everything in between, which is awesome. But if this is the first time watching us, welcome to our podcast / show. If you're watching us on YouTube here, we do appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to go on to Facebook and Instagram and check us out there. You can also find all of our video recorded episodes right here on YouTube, or if you're listening to us audio only, or you want to check out the other episodes we've done in audio only format, you can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, anywhere, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. We're probably there. And then other ones we don't even know about, I'm sure. So now really quickly though, there was some breaking news that happened today at the time of this recording. So we are recording on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. So we're recording just a couple days before the premiere of the finale of Picard, which hopefully won't be the finale, Terry. Maybe we can get something else that comes out of this legacy stuff. That'd be awesome. But there was a big announcement. I don't know if you guys saw it. And those of you watching or listening, maybe you did, or maybe you didn't see it. We have posted on our social media platform, so you can check it out there. But Paramount did announce that we are getting a Section 31 movie starring Michelle Yeoh, reprising her role as Philippa George. How do you say her last name?
Giorgio.
So the recent Oscar winning actress, former Bond girl. I mean, she's been in so many great things. Wonderful actress. She's coming back in her role, and we are getting a exclusive movie. Probably will be only on Paramount Plus, I'm assuming, of Section 31. What do you guys think about that?
Chris's face.
Chris is like,
he's like, this is brand new information to me.
Yeah, this is brand new. I had no idea.
It was announced this morning.
Yeah. I'm gonna spin on that for a second. I was really excited to see that they were thinking, or not that they were thinking, but that they decided to go with the format of a film. I think it's not that I don't think that Section 31 has legs. I think it's just not a terrible, I don't know, it's like just a way to sort of dive into it without committing. I don't know. I'm really interested to see how Paramount's going to be sort of navigating the Star Trek universe moving forward, and seeing this gives me hope for other projects like this.
Yeah.
I think so, that could potentially turn into shows if they're really well received. Or not, but it's, I don't know. I think it's a good opportunity for us to see a lot of the Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
Or universes.
Okay. Yeah. Universes, I think, for sure. Chris, this is breaking news to you, I guess. I know you've been traveling.
Yeah.
So maybe you didn't get a chance to see it, but we've talked about this on our podcast, right? About a Section 31 thing. Clearly, Paramount's been watching the Random Redshirt podcast, and we're like, oh yeah, it's a great idea, guys. Let's do it. We'll be looking for the royalty checks in the mail, but that's besides the point. What do you think?
I think this is awesome. I think this is a whole kind of different side of Star Trek that they can explore. You're right. We have been talking about this multiple times in the past, on not only we've talked about it personally, but also on the podcast. So it's amazing that this is happening. And in my mind, I always thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was Mission Impossible meets Star Trek, because they're so Section 31 is so covert, and and I want to see them do like these really interesting, impossible things that kind of save, save the sector or save the galaxy, and that we never hear about it, just like Mission Impossible. So I think there's a whole bunch of opportunity there, and we've got a great actress there to be able to do that. Like, wow, there's so much there that they can do. I'm thinking a lot of spycraft and action, and hopefully that'll all be there.
Yeah, I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, that because Michelle Yeoh's in it, that it's going to take place in the Discovery time period, at least I don't know, is it going to be in the future, the 3000, whatever year they're in, or is it going to be in?
Are you all caught up on Discovery?
That's a negative Ghost Rider. Pattern's full. Pattern's full.
So you know how they went to the future?
They did, yeah.
She went back through the Guardian of Forever.
Through the what?
Through
the Guardian? What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Thanks for spoiling it.
What do you want me to do?
Forever. You mean like the Guardian Forever, like in TOS?
You're not gonna watch it?
What?
I didn't say I wasn't gonna watch it. I just said I hadn't watched it yet. I'm going to get there eventually, Jenny. Yeah, thanks.
I don't know if we would have gotten there to watching it. I don't know. Well, maybe maybe now we will.
Jenny, I would have gotten there eventually. I promise.
I'm really sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
I may have not gotten there.
It's okay.
So she was because she was from the other universe.
Yeah.
Because this is the Emperor.
Yeah,
right?
the other one died.
Yeah.
I know that.
So she is sort of like displaced, like she's in the wrong universe, and there's like sciencey stuff going wrong with her. So she has to go back to the mirror universe to like sort some stuff out, and then goes, and the Guardian of Forever does that, and then sends her back to the past, but like the prime past.
Okay.
So she's back in like Pike time.
Okay. All right. Now my brain's scrambled. Okay, that's all right. That's fine. That's all. Everything's fine here. It's the meme with the dog and the fire in the back. Everything's fine here. It's all fine. Everything's fine. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe then it's in Captain Pike and original Discovery time period. My hope was Rivers, our fourth guest host for this episode. My hope was with Section 31 that it would be a series, number one. Number two, with this, I mean, think about it, right? Picard season 3 has basically been this amazing, like, culmination of a bunch of Star Trek movies. Like, every episode feels like a movie because there's just so much going on. There's so much packed into it. Obviously the production value, the visual quality, it feels like a movie every time you're watching an episode. And so I was kind of hoping maybe we get, a show worth, but I mean, the show is kind of like the movies now in that regard. So hopefully it'll be good. I'm wondering if this movie's like a feeler, like a feel out to see how it does. And then if it does well, they launch a show out of it. We already know we're getting the Star Trek Starfleet Academy show, which, as Chris, you put it last time, the Harry Potter crossover into Star Trek, maybe, who knows? So it's going to be interesting to see. So those of you who did not know that yet, Star Trek Section 31 is coming some point down in the future as an upcoming movie with Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh. So,
Zach, thank you for sharing it, because obviously I did not know. So yeah,
that was pretty big breaking news. Everybody, I did see a few people on social media who are like, "Oh, it's a show a movie nobody asked for." I was like, that's bogus, because a lot of people have been asking for Section 31. Now, we'd be remiss, Chris, if we did not mention that here at the Random Red Shirt podcast, one of our beloved fellow interviewees that we had on our show, Tracy Coco, we hope that they bring back Lieutenant J into Section 31 into that show, because I mean, it kind of makes sense. It would make sense to have her on there. So here's the bring back Lieutenant J support, and we hope that if CBS Paramount's listening, bring Tracy back, get her into the Section 31 movie. Orders from the Random Red Shirt podcast. All right. Anyways, so let's talk about what we're really here for. That is Star Trek Picard, season 3, episode 8 and 9 review. We did not get a chance to do it last week due to some scheduling conflicts, but here we are, and we got a lot to talk about. Holy buckets. Was there a lot in these last couple episodes, episodes 8 and 9. So with that being said, let's jump into it. And get going, Jenny, and let's start talking about, we'll start with episode 8. We'll tackle episode 8 first, okay. Then we'll do episode 9, and we'll kind of give our thoughts at the end like we normally do.
Perfect. So when last we saw our valiant heroes, things were not looking so good for them. It feels like it's been a month since we've done this. Like it actually feels like a lot of time's passed. So anyway, to review, Vadic is taking control of the Titan. So we open with Vadic lighting her cigarette, blunt, whatever it is. You know, is it separate? Is she smoking herself? We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We don't know.
Well, but she doesn't she drop it on the floor and smush it with her foot in episode 6 or 7 or something like that? I don't know.
She does.
So
actually, yeah, she does it again here too. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see any like T1000 where the liquid goes back into the foot, any kind of thing.
Good
so
point.
it could still be a part of her. Who knows?
Mm. So so she's being a supervillain. She's monologuing, she's threatening everyone, she's sort of systematically terrorizing the crew, shutting down communications, cutting off sensors. They can't see each other, they can't hear each other, blocking off bulkheads and slaughtering the crew in the hallways. So that's pretty intense. It's a really big kind of just like reminding us, the stakes that we're in. So, and she takes the moment to address the crew. And again, lots of threats and menacing, and this is what we're going to do to you. And except if you just give me Jack Crusher, we'll just be on our way. So
just that easy.
Yeah. So, meanwhile on the Shrike, and we haven't, so you recall 2 episodes previous, Riker had been kidnapped, or not kidnapped, taken prisoner, by the people in the Shrike, and he sees Deanna at the last moment. So finally, 2 episodes later, we're back on the Shrike with Will and Deanna. Finally. So, so we're catching up with the Troy Rikers. They're, just sort of talking about the situation that they're in. They're catching up with each other because they haven't seen each other in a while. It's a really nice little, married people moment, considering that they're in this sort of dire situation with some funny lines. Like we get, because Riker's he's really happy to see her. And he's just like, oh, I'm Zadi, I missed you. And she's like, I should have taught you a different word. Yintaru. He's like, what does that mean?
That's right.
Baby of immense size. So we got a new Betazoid word in this particular episode.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Hilarious. You big baby.
Just relax, we're fine. And then she also talked a little bit about when the changelings came, and how he's you're charming, but he was pretty charming too. And he's like, oh, how charming. Good in bed, bad at pizza. So we got a lot of like just really nice character stuff with Troy and Riker. And this little bit we end with Riker saying, well, it's we did have to give that code up that just sort of they gave like kind of they knew it wasn't going to do anything. But Riker is confident that Picard has everything under control. So just in terms of that little bit, any thoughts about the reintroduction of Deanna?
You want to go, Chris? Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Better, yeah.
That was beautiful. That was wonderful. I do have thoughts. That scene with Deanna and Riker, I think was one that was really, really needed. I think it was very personal, very intimate, and so the part that I like about or that I appreciate about that scene is you as husband and wife that lost a child, right? This was something that was needed, because I think that we learn about that in either season one. I think it was season one that we learned.
Season one, yeah.
Yeah. But that is, you hear Riker talking about his numbness, like through that experience, and then you learn that it was Deanna trying to help him through his pain. But when she was doing that, that prevented Riker from kind of experiencing the whole range of emotions and catharsis that he really, really needed for something like that. So I think this scene was important and was really necessary, because I don't think that they fully addressed it in season one. This was something that, hey, this was a huge impact on Riker and Deanna's lives, and it needed to be talked about more. And I thought it was done very tenderly and masterfully, and I like that Riker comes out of it thinking and feeling that he's a new person now. He's kind of found himself again after he was in the nebula, and he found that darkness again. He experienced that same darkness that they experienced when their child died. And you have them kind of, Deanna explains like why she did what she did. She wanted to help. And Riker says, yeah, he knows that, but it didn't help him. And Deanna kind of realizes that, yeah, she should never have done that, because it didn't allow Riker to own or to experience the emotions that were his. So I think that was wonderful, and you do see it. There's humor interjected in there too, because you do see Riker saying, yeah, well, be able to give you some of the old Riker charm back again. And I thought that was great. And I thought those very meaningful, intimate moments were great between them, because when you have Worf coming in to help rescue them, it is awesome. It is awesome what happens like there, and it is so funny, and the expression on Riker's face, and just the straightforwardness of Worf saying, oh, Deanna, it has been like so many years and days since I have seen you, and I have been thinking about you and working on myself, and and it was just perfect. I thought, not only does that kind of acknowledge that triangle that was there in the original, right, where in TNG, but it just gives that connection, emotional connection to these characters that were there. So I thought it was great that they had this. It wasn't that long, but it was just a necessary moment in there for Riker and Deanna. It was perfect. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
What about you, Zach? What do you think about it?
What he said. No, I would say, yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think during this particular scene, I thought it was a really fantastically written scene. You got to see all those years of time of Riker and Troy, the kind of back and forth they had over the years of TNG, and the Riker chasing after Troy, and the chemistry that those two had from all this time together and having a family together. And of course the chemistry that Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis have working together as much as they have, right? I loved, like what you said, Jenny. I loved the line where she calls him basically a big baby. That was epic. But yeah, it was a really touching scene between Riker and Troy. I think it was very needed. It kind of brings this whole bit of closure together for their relationship, which was on the rocks, as we know, to start season 3, right? Riker had apparently been gone for some time, right? He had left to go find himself back in amongst the stars. And because of that, he had been gone a while, and they clearly had a falling out. and they're rekindling their love and their marriage. And I think it was fantastic. And yeah, the Worf comes in, and I'm telling you, it's when we had Doug Drexler on, he hit the nail right in the head when he mentioned that the comedic presence, timing, whatever the wording he used for Worf is so underrated. It's just Worf's humor just got better and better as TNG went on. It was up until Picard, it was at its peak in the movies, I think.
Yeah.
Like the humor they had in the movies was peak. So this was a great scene. Really, really great scene. Great way to start off episode 8 with a touching moment between Troy and Riker, and that chemistry amongst them.
Yeah,
Did you notice too? Sorry, Chris. When they were talking, I think about the planet, right? And she actually mentioned that she hated the planet.
Yeah, and
right?
and they both did. They both, you know, when you're in a relationship and you know you're doing the same thing over and over again. You know, you always go to the same place for brunch, and then finally somebody says, I hate that place. And you're like, I hate that place too. We always go there, you know?
Yeah.
And it's such a real thing, especially with them, you know, because Riker's been through this experience now where he's again had, like you said, Chris, that moment of just bleakness. But then in the nebula, you know, they saw this birth of this creature or these creatures, and he sort of saw like what can come after if you can, you know, come back out of it. And I think they're both realizing that their lives aren't over.
Yeah.
You know, and that maybe it's time to see what's next, you know, which is pretty cool, you know, for a couple that's been together that long.
Yeah, I think that nebula, the more I think about it and what we've seen from before and after the nebula event, or the nursery, right? That has these creatures. It's almost like that moment is kind of like a symbol for what's going on with some of these characters, right? It's kind of, see, once in a while, I can have some level of insight. Not often, but sometimes. And so, yeah, but I kind of think of that moment that they see that, right? You're now starting to see this kind of rebirth with Riker and Troy. I think there's some other insights that have happened since then with Picard and everything, and this idea of trying to get to know his son more, and you know, things like that. So I think it's definitely something that I've been thinking about.
Definitely. So the Riker and Troy conversation.
That's it, though. That's my only insight for the whole episode. I've already burned it up my one-time use.
So that conversation with them kind of like weaves through the episode. We kind of go back and forth a couple of times to get all of that, all of those pieces together. So that actually worked out really well, that we kind of just did the whole thing at once, because we got lots more. Nice. So we go back to the Titan and back to Vadic, who's continuing to oscillate between just being menacing and being kind of creepy and just weird and also a little funny, you know, where she's like spinning in the chair. She's like, this is cozy. I'm going to take this with me when we go. You know, so, and at this point she's got the bridge crew lined up just while she wanders around. They're all just standing there, and Shaw and Seven are kind of having a moment, because if you recall from season 7, he attempted to stop the changelings from getting to the bridge, told Seven to blow the turbo lift, and she did not do it.
Wait, episode 7.
Sorry. Episode 7. Sorry.
I was like, wait, are we talking about TNG now? Hang on.
No.
Okay, no. Sorry, episode 7. Okay, got it. I'm easily confused. I had to make sure I knew what you were talking about.
So Seven is, Shaw is saying, you know, you should have blown the turbo lift. Like, what the hell was that? Why did you do that? You know, and she's like, I saved your life. You know, I don't trade lives. I don't just, you know, throw away someone's life. And he's like, you don't get to make that decision. You're Starfleet. You know, all of your decisions have consequences, and there are consequences of this decision that haven't happened yet. So they're sort of having this, I mean, obviously they're not yelling at each other, but they're whispering back and forth. And yeah, so we sort of visit them for a minute, and Vadic continues threatening and makes another announcement over the comm saying, all right, this is nuts. You've got 10 minutes or I'm going to kill somebody. Send Jack up here. So Then that takes us to sick bay. This episode, there's so many like
a lot
there's
of
so
stuff
many
happening.
different set pieces.
Yep.
So so we're in sick bay with PB and J, Picard and Beverly and Jack.
Cool.
I can't take credit for that one.
PB and J.
That's from Jesse on Twitter. PB and J and Sydney. So the four of them are there. They're trying to get control of the ship. No luck. It's basically just establishing that like they're locked out of everything. Jack kind of takes a minute to ward out and sense what some of the crew in the corridors are experiencing. You know, he sees a couple of them dead. It's clear that things are bad. And he brings up the fact like I think I can do something about this. Like, I think I can actually help. Turns out I can like go into people's heads and hear what they're thinking and get them to do stuff. And I love that Beverly immediately gets out the tricorder and starts scanning him as soon as he says that. She's like, no. Well, he doesn't. I don't think he's hallucinating. But Sydney backs him up on it and says, no, that he did it with me. He saved my life. So they make the attempt then for him to take control of Mura. Is that his name, Mura?
I think so.
You talking about the Bajoran?
Yes, the Bajoran officer on the bridge, and he does it. He takes control of him, and he gets him. He's putting in a code that Picard has given him that would take back control of the ship. But that it catches him just at the and at first she's like, how did you have the code? And then she looks, she's like, Jack. Ooh, Jack, are you in there? You know, so she's aware. She has some awareness, obviously, that he has these gifts. And so at this point, she's a little ticked off. So, and she's like, all right, this is, that's it. 10 minutes are up. Everyone's in trouble. I'm going to kill somebody. So she's like, her monologuing. Oh, she's so good.
Yeah.
Like she's
really
just, good. Oh, like just eating the place up, like it's, and grabbing them, and she pushes down, oh gosh, what's her name? Sorry, what's their name? I apologize. The communications officer.
Yeah. I don't remember her name either. Or their name either.
It's in there. It's in there. And Seven being the I don't trade lives, immediately tries to sacrifice herself to save and Shaw pulls her back. And in the end, it looks like they're going to kill the communications officer, and Vadic shoots Tavine, the Deltan Vulcan.
Yeah.
Who we all really liked, I think.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? That was an intense scene.
Yeah.
What did you think about that, Zach?
Yeah. Once the Bajoran officer said, and she asked, like, do you have any kids? Or are you a father? Somebody's like, yeah, I have a son. And I was like, oh no, they're going to kill the Bajoran guy with the kid. Please don't do this. But then I started thinking, well, wait a second though. That seems a little obvious. And if there's one thing Picard season 3 has taught me, it's that don't expect the obvious, right? There's always going to be a twist or a turn or something to keep you on your toes or keep you guessing. And I was like, maybe she won't kill him. Maybe this is all a ploy. She's going to randomly kill somebody else. And I'm like, oh geez, who's she going to kill? And then she kills the Vulcan. And I'm like, oh man. So yeah, this was a really, really good scene. Man, yeah, Vadic, and the actress who plays her, her name's escaping me.
Amanda Plummer.
Amanda Plummer, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, she's good in this role. I mean, she has the vibes of an absolute supervillain. Like the way she plays the character, right? The way the character's written, it's this like supervillain type mentality. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed the scene. I didn't enjoy her killing off one of the crew, but very much enjoyed the scene, the interplay. Picard is very much, he's sticking to that Starfleet mentality, right? Like we're not gonna surrender. We're not gonna give up. And I'm not talking about Galaxy Quest here. Never give up, never surrender. No, but he's very much like, you're not gonna do it, Jack. We're not gonna trade your life. You're not gonna give in to this woman and so forth, and this changeling and everything like that. But yeah, it was pretty good. What about you, Chris? You got any light you want to shed on this particular scene?
So Amanda Plummer and that character Vadic is fantastic. I think Vadic reminds me of Khan a lot. Also reminds me of Kang. I think Kang from Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country, right? Where you
General Kang?
General Kang.
Chang.
Yeah.
Chang, yeah, General Chang. Yeah. The one-eyed Shakespearean quoting Klingon.
Yeah, her dad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have these.
He's her dad in real life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait. Whoa.
Christopher Plummer, Amanda Plummer.
Are you? I mean, I guess I didn't ever make that connection. You serious?
Yes.
Holy friggin' crap!
Yeah.
Holy friggin' crap!
Mind blown. Yeah.
Yeah, my mind. I'm gonna have to recover from this. General Chang's daughter, or not really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is Vadic. Holy crap! Well done, Terry Metalis. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. I mean, I know she was on 12 Monkeys, right, with him, so that's probably part of the connection. But that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if she took any inspiration from his performance of Chang in Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country, but her performance here was just outstanding, right? She's just a very charismatic and unbalanced and tortured individual, that is out for vengeance, and she plays that just beautifully. And unpredictable as she is, and just has these wonderful intelligent monologues that she likes to share. So I think that's great. My only I would just wish we had more of her, but but I think that was great. So a couple of the things that you had been talking about during this hostage scene, and I think it was said more than by more than one character, I think, but that idea of, we don't trade lives. I think that was a couple of people said that, but I think that was important too, and saying, yeah, we don't trade lives. And so they're going through this very, very desperate, like impossible situation. And it is like gut wrenching, like to see that, right? You don't want any of them. You don't want any of them to die. And I didn't think that any of them were going to die, actually. But they did. And that just added more desperation to the moment and to the scene, and kind of feeling of you weren't sure what was going to happen. Would any of the other major characters like die?
Yeah.
So it really set it up for a they had to use their ingenuity to get out of this, and which they did, but really set it up for just a very desperate situation that I think that was great for the episode to work through. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting because they've put so much work into building these characters. In particular, I feel like Tavine just she was so good. Like she was so good. And yeah, I shrieked. Like I did not think that was gonna happen. Cause and there were also like 3 or 4 red shirts in that line.
Yeah.
Shout out to the red shirts. But
right.
yeah,
I guess we're not the only red shirts that survive every episode. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it really, it was unexpected, and even out of the 3 bridge officers that it could have been, I feel like for some reason she was the most shocking, almost. At least for me. Yeah, that was a lot. So
there was a little bit of a double take that I had of my initial reaction, right? Like when I was like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Did that really happen? Okay.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's because it's so fast and so sudden and it
yeah,
almost feels like one of those shots where it's like somebody imagining it and then it goes back to normal.
yeah.
Yeah. So all right, we've talked about Troy and Riker again. So let's
Yeah.
pop back down to oh yes, back to sickbay. So their attempt to take the bridge has failed. And they've got Sydney again kind of poking around with computers trying to figure out, okay, like, she's like, I mean, maybe I could write a code that could get the computer back, but it would take me like 6 months. My dad might be able to do it in a week. Another little shout out to my dad. And then she says what you would need to write a code like this to take the computer back would be, a blah 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 blah, a very, very powerful independent processing computer.
Yeah.
And Picard goes, hey, you know what? We've got one of those. So, or at least potentially. So they head down to engineering maintenance area where Geordi and Alondra are, and Data / lore / B4 / Alton bot are all gathered. And at this point, Geordi has shut him down. He's had him unplugged from the ship because, oh yeah, I think I missed that at the beginning. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. He's unplugged him from the ship because in the last episode, Lore had taken over and made quite a bit of trouble.
Yep.
So Picard and Beverly, so PB&J and Sydney arrive. And and they're explaining to Geordi, like, we need Data to take the ship back. And Geordi's like, I mean, he's in there, but also Lore's in there. And if I, let them go, if I let the partition down to try to, let one of them take over, Lore could win and we would lose Data forever. And of course, they don't have a choice, of course. So, thus begins the battle for the bot. No. Thus begins
the fight of the century.
Yeah, the battle of the brothers. So there's a good chunk that, I mean, this is a big chunk of time in the show, very well spent, I think, where we actually go inside of the positronic mind of Data / Lore, and we experience them interacting with each other, sort of fighting for dominance, but not fighting, right? Because they're just in there talking at this point. And Data is looking at his memories. He's sort of just looking through the things that make him him. As oh gosh, what was the quote? The quote. The only sensible measure of the worth of a life, so says Sherlock Holmes. And yeah, so we're looking at the Sherlock hat in the pipe. And he's explaining to Lore that his memories are a part of him, that really he is built of memories, like the actual person that is Data is just built of his experiences and his memories. And he understands that Lore, doesn't really have things that are special to him or special memories because, as he says, I've had everything and brother, you've had nothing. So then he starts giving them to him as he's explaining. He gives him the pipe, and Lore kind of scoffs at it and makes it disappear. And he pulls out the hologram. We get a reminder of Tasha Yar.
Yay, Tasha came back.
Oh, this scene, you guys. Oh my god. So we get the Tasha Yar hologram, and he hands it over. I mean, it's actually kind of funny because Laura's sort of tipping her around, but again, I mean, he only hands over 4 things to Lore, and they are just to see that these are the things that are the most precious to him, it's pretty amazing. So Tasha Yar, and then he pulls out the cards, the deck of cards. And as you know, I've spent some time with those cards.
Oh yeah.
And
Yep.
those are like those are the cards. They match those cards perfectly. The backs of them, like that was beautifully done. And again, this is all the time that I spent with my friends, playing cards with them, playing poker.
Oh.
And then there's the meow.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sitting on the couch with my cat. Oh my god. He said, and this is Spot. And this simple creature taught me to love, basically, is what he said. And he says he's the best of me. He is the last of me, because this is the last memory he has to give to Lore. And Lore actually smiles. There's a little because sort of because Lore's taking this in as he's he's kind of being dismissive of it, but he hands Spot over, and Lore kind of oh. And sorry. Then we see we're taken to the outside for a moment, because we've just seen Data hand over everything to Lore. So we go back to the outside, where we see the blue Data dots are diminishing, and the red Lore dots, representing the takeover of the whole being, are growing. And Picard says, "This looks like surrender. This looks like surrender." But then we go back inside, and what do we see? What do we see, Zach?
We see Data.
Yeah, it looks for a minute like he's gone.
Like he's gone, and then he used it against Lore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because he knew what Lore's response was going to be, right?
Mm-hmm. He knew that he was jealous, and that he was kind of empty, and he knew that by giving him all of those things, he was making him him. So he says, "We are me."
Yeah.
That's such a great line. And then he hugs him, and they say goodbye, brother. Okay, so knowing what I know about Chris and Data, I'm very curious to know how you feel about this.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you.
Sorry,
Jenny. No, it's good. Jenny, that was beautifully like expressed and said. Thank you so much. That was awesome. And yeah, the scenes with Data were beautiful too. I'm gonna go back.
Please, yeah.
To and you'll understand where I'm getting to, but I'm gonna go back to something that Will and Deanna said first. And I think this is what they said, but this is at the beginning of the episode. And they, whether this is intentional or not, I think when they were saying, yeah, I hate that planet, and when they realized they both want to move to the city, and that planet wasn't for them, and I think someone says, either Deanna or Will says, well, we have to move through that door, or together we have to move through a door. So the idea of a door or a partition is somewhere, it's in multiple spots throughout these episodes. The red door that Jack has, the door that Deanna and Riker have, this partition that is in that Data and Lore have, or the scene where there's a door between Geordi trying to express his emotions to Data, although Data's Lore, right? These physical or virtual barriers that are within. So the idea that lowering the partition in Data's case, where that was the only way that Data was going to evolve, was like absolutely like necessary. And in Data's case and Lore's case, it was not only lowering that kind of virtual partition that was in him, but it was, you see them embrace. Data embraces lore, right? So it's not just lowering it, it's embracing that other part that is within that kind of vessel at that time. And that those actions that Data has, so Data is giving the most precious things that he has, right, to his brother, acknowledging that you didn't have these things. I grew up with love and Starfleet, right? He had all of these people like loving him and nurturing him and befriending him, where Lore did not. Lore grew up in a much more painful environment. But there are like attributes of Lore and characteristics of Lore that are valuable too. Like I had said before, like Lore's got all this ambition. He's got this misplaced ambition, but he's ambitious, like nevertheless, and he's got emotion. But I love that it is Data brought up in that environment of nurturing and love, and then Data learning to love like the creature Spot, and then Data learning to love his brother and all of his brother's flaws and embracing his brother. And like Picard says, hey, this looks like it's surrender. And it was Data wasn't fighting it, but he knew that, hey, this is a part of my new being, and in order to kind of become the next phase of a living being, I have to embrace that. So I really liked that. I thought, yeah, I could see that is where it's going, and I think this was just like I said before, bringing Data back in this way was just this beautiful right way to do it, right? You're showing this love to Data, you're showing this love to Lore, because Lore was a big part of Data's life too. And I felt that I think we all knew that this was going to happen, and I thought that, yeah, this was great, this was going to happen, and this is how they were going to come out of that predicament, right? They're at this very, very dire spot with having hostages, and they needed Data, and that was the only way that was going to happen. So yeah, those were some of my thoughts. I mean, a lot of it I love the symbolic idea of partitions and barriers and moving through it and trying to get through it. And I love that, whether intentional or not, through these episodes, but it was great. So those were some of my thoughts with that scene. Wonderfully done.
I agree. What do you think, Zach?
Okay. I'm gonna say something and then hear me out.
That's what we're here for.
Don't judge me by the first thing I say about this. I hated this scene, but not because it was bad, but because of the emotional effect it had on me. It was it was so perfectly done. It was so perfectly written. There were so many good things about it. When we got to the Spot part, that freaking killed me. Like killed me, because I grew up with dogs and cats, pretty much my whole life. And the Spot had a big effect on Data, obviously, right? When he mentioned about the what was it? The line that he said is something to the effect of, this was he was the best part of me, all this stuff. Oh gosh, that got to me, especially because I think about my version of Spot, which was my dog. Oh, I don't know if you can see him.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
I know it's turned sideways. I don't know why my phone's doing that. But I had to put him down about a year and a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it still affects me pretty bad today. So
Mm-hmm.
that was hard to watch. Just because I'm thinking, yeah, Jake, that was my dog, had the same effect on me that Spot did on Data. So yeah, it was a really, really tough scene to watch. So that's why I said I hate that. I hate this scene, not because it's bad, but because of how good it was.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it was good, but because of the emotional effect it had on me. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think you're right, Chris. I think this is the best way to bring Data back into the fold. And you think about it, right? You can still kind of overcome the fact that Data has quote unquote died twice, because Data was brought back, but it's almost like he's, I don't use the word evolved, but he's a different version of Data. It's Data, but it's a different version of him. It's me, as he called himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, very emotional scene. As soon as Spot came on camera, I was like, "Yep," and I lost it. I love Spot on TNG and in the movies. It was great. So yeah. Anyways, that's enough for me before I start crying more.
That was great, Zach.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I think we all know it, and it's something that we don't all always talk about, but we bring these creatures into our lives and literally give them a piece of our hearts, and they live this little tiny short life, and they go and they take it with them, and it's really, I think it's a very I mean, it's not universal because not everyone has experienced it, but a lot of us have experienced that. And yeah, I think it's really, I don't know, it's very human.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it, right? Data, even going back to the episode of Measure of a Man from TNG, which I think is probably one of my favorite TNG episodes because of the topics it deals with, and this idea of sentient life and having free will and everything else. Data, the fact that whether Data was his own sentient life was called into question. Obviously, Picard defended him in that. And so you think that Starfleet looks at him as just this bucket of bolts, right? It's just this machine that they can do whatever they want with, and he's Starfleet property and everything. But then at the end of the day, you look at something like Spot, and while Data had no emotion, you knew he loved the hell out of that cat. He just proved it in that scene.
Exactly.
So it's even more so, excuse me, it's even more emotional when you think about someone like Data, who had no emotion yet was so, wrapped into this cat, loved this cat so much. This cat showed him so many different things, and what he got out of that, and the friendship that he had with this cat, even though it turned into a lizard once during that amazing episode of season 7 of TNG where they all de-evolve, which was I thought that
shout out to Genesis.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that episode was stupid, but I mean, you go back to that, right? I mean, this cat that Data has was just, it was a huge part of him. It was his best friend, So
yeah, absolutely.
Great. All right, enough of the sappy stuff.
Okay. So
back to bad, poor jokes.
So while this is all happening with Data, because again,
that was a big
around
scene.
Here.
Yeah,
it was a big scene. Yeah, and we had a couple of cuts during this scene to Jack arriving on the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I've got the distraction. While you guys get Data going, I've got the distraction. So he arrives on the bridge, with what looks a lot like a thermal detonator. Hello.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And like,
he's holding a thermal detonator.
Yeah.
And so he's basically holding off Vadic, saying, I may not be able to hurt you, but I can definitely hurt me. So, and you need me, clearly. So he's, trying to get some information out of her. He's stalling, but also he wants to know what's up. Like, he's very upset. He's just, like, why do you want me? And at this point, because he's there, she's now agreed to let the crew go up into the briefing room. And so they all head upstairs. Not instead. They head up
I think
into
you're right.
there.
Yeah.
There's a couple of stairs. Yeah.
I think so.
And Seven's the last one in, but then of course turns around and zips back out. And once again, putting herself in harm's way for someone else. And Baddock says, it's very appropriate that you would come and join us for this, for Jack to learn who he is. Which at that point, when we don't know anything, we're like, interesting. So then there's just the talkie, and then because then it's like flipping back and forth at this point, because then we're flipping back to Data, we're flipping to Riker and Troy and Worf and Raffi arriving on the Shrike. Sorry, from the Shrike. Oh gosh, but they were on the Shrike. Oh, it's so flippy. So
yeah,
when they were on the Shrike, they've had a quick conversation and shown them Picard's body that was on the Shrike, and just saying that the little piece had been cut out of his parietal lobe. So they had what they came for with him, in other words.
Yeah.
So they've arrived back on the ship. Raffi does some really nice sword work.
Yeah.
So swords, knives work, dispatching or at least incapacitating a number of changelings in the corridor. She's followed up by Worf, who has some hot tips for what she may or may not have done correctly.
Yeah.
I like how Worf's like, you should have done this. Like,
I know.
Oh, Worf.
Riker comes up behind. He's like, "Whoa, to Raffi, you're scary." Woo, Anyway, it was great. It was just a nice little piece of action. Once again, we've got the great Worf one-liners coming in.
Yep.
And Deanna at that point kind of does her sort of psychic body trauma thing, and is like, "There's a darkness on this ship. Like we need to find Jack, I guess." Yeah, we need to get the bottom of this. So, okay, back to the bridge.
Yeah.
At this point, back to the bridge, where Vadek is she's sort of teasing him with like, "So, have you seen a red door? Do you basically sort of making it clear that she knows what's going on with him, and that if he comes with her, she'll tell him all about it. She'll give him all the information he wants." But they're kind of interrupted by Data coming over the communication system and announcing, "I have control of the ship." His pissed off positronic security. That was great. It was just a nice little line.
Yeah.
And at which point, oh my gosh, Jack hits the thing, the thermal detonator that he's holding, that isn't a thermal detonator. It's actually a force field. Pulls Seven in, and all of a sudden they've got this cone of silence thing happening on the bridge. And they're like, "Data now!" And Data blows the emergency evacuation hatch that is behind the main viewer of the ship. What?
That must be a new thing in the newer ships, because I don't remember that being a thing.
I've got an example of that for you. The Naked Now, when they go on the Tsiolkovsky, the second episode of TNG, when they go on the Tsiolkovsky, they have a video feed of the bridge. They can't get on the bridge because the bridge has been depressurized, and you look and the view screen's blown out.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
You got it.
Look at you.
Ooh. Thank you, Twitter. So, and Vadek's epic final words, realizing what's happening.
Oh yeah.
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 Solids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're dropping F-bombs on the show here, so effing solids, we'll say.
Yeah. We could bring in some BSG and say fracking solids.
Fracking solids, exactly.
Right. Yeah, you can say it on network television. Why can't we?
Exactly. And is blown out into space along with her minions. where she tumbles end over end, freezing in space in a semi-scientific way until she hits the deflector dish of the Shrike and shatters.
Yeah, crystal shatters everywhere. Yeah.
So, the end of Vadic. Hey Zach, how did you feel about that?
Why do you gotta ask me first?
I'm trying to switch it up.
I'd rather hear what Chris has to say and then just say what he said. It makes it easier. Yeah, I was a little surprised they killed off Vadic in episode number 8. I kind of felt that at some point before the show ended, they were going to kill her off. I kind of thought, yeah, that's probably going to happen. But a little surprised that episode 8 was where it was chosen to be done. Obviously, when we get into episode 9, it kind of makes sense, I think, why that was the case, because she's replaced, right, with a different villain. Yeah, I was a little surprised by that, but I do like the bleeping solids or fracking solids, as we'll say fracking solids. That was a pretty funny little line there, as her last words. Yeah, that was interesting. I thought the whole scene was pretty cool, very futuristic-y, techy, kind of thing. I had the same thoughts, like, is she holding a thermal freaking detonator? Like, what is in her hand? But I shouldn't say that. Doug will get mad across the streams. But
sorry, Doug.
Yeah, sorry, we're crossing the streams, Doug. But yeah, it was an interesting scene. I'm thinking to myself, okay, Vadic's dead. So that's it. We're good. We can go home. Everything's cool, but not yet. There's much more to come from that. Much more to come. Yeah. What about you, Chris?
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was a fantastic death scene for Vadic. And that shield that they were in, that was a twist. I didn't see that coming, so I thought, oh, that was cool. And then completely didn't see them evacuating the bridge and blowing out Vadic through the hatch. But that was so cool. And just the visual effects of when they did it, and her going out and her being shattered by the Shrike's deflector dish was great. And they took their sweet time in like showing that all play out, right? So yeah, she's going in slow motion and then freezing and then shattering. So
if you remember, Chris, when we had Bruce Horak on with us, who played Hemmer on Strange New Worlds, one of the things he mentioned was, because we asked him if he knew right away or not that he was going to die in season 1, if his character was going to live or die. He said he knew very early on, like right away. And he just said he hoped for like a hero's death and not some weird death, like, pushing a button going, what does this do? And then him dying. And he had that kind of, heroine's death. He saves he throws his body off the ledge, and, the Gorn babies go with him.
Yeah.
But so I kind of had a similar thought, Chris. I don't know if you did, where I kind of felt like Vadic got kind of a cool death, right? In this regard, like it wasn't just somebody turns around quickly and shoots her with a phaser and she disintegrates, right? It's something more, a little bit of a larger kind of deal. So I don't know if you thought the same thing or not, or if the whole discussion with Bruce and the way he wanted to go.
Well, this was a very creative and original demise, right?
Yeah.
for Vadic, for Vadic. Like,
yeah.
I just see them thinking about like, how should they? What should her demise be?
Can you imagine in the writers' room where they're like, okay, and then this will happen. Oh my god! And what if we do this? And what if we blow out the main viewer? Come on, like, just I love it. It's just fabulous.
I had also thought too, like when before they killed her, right? When she was gonna die, I'm like, what if they did like those random red shirts from TOS where she gets beamed into space, right? Like she starts as she starts beaming up, she'd be like fracking solids, and then they show her like rematerializing in space, and she's like, and then she freezes, and then I kind of thought about something like that too. It'd be kind of funny.
That's awesome. Oh my god.
I know.
I mean, we've talked about all the many ways that the random red shirts in Star Trek have died.
Oh, that's
right, Chris?
awesome.
You remember when we were talking with the Duras sisters on their podcast, and we talked about how the different ways they have found creative things for red shirts to die, like being pushed off cliffs and killed with sparkly, glittery clouds and styrofoam rocks and all sorts of random things. So
dropping down through the floor of the bulkheads
Yeah.
halfway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I mean, this was interesting. This was a very unique way. And I think the character deserved it, right? The character deserved some kind of
Absolutely.
I hate to use the word cool because a cool death, but like something dramatic, not just you know, being disintegrated by a phaser. Anybody can be disintegrated by a phaser.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This was awesome the way they did it.
For sure.
Definitely.
100%.
Definitely. So Vadic dead. It's dead.
Yeah.
And we've got, so that's happened. And now we're kind of wrapping up, we're tying up the loose ends here, because this has basically been 2 episodes of the Siege of the Titan.
Yeah.
You know, so now we've got a lovely little conversation with Data and Geordi coming down the corridor, a classic Geordi Data walk and talk. You know, where they're just sort of, Geordi's asking him like, so how do you feel?
Yeah.
You know, and Data, because we know now that Data he's not his body is like Picard's, it's basically human. Or a very, very nice facsimile. But he's old, and you know, and he just looks at Jordan and is like, I feel, which is just because that takes us back, like that goes back to like Star Trek 6, you know, how do you feel, Jim?
Yeah.
Or wait, no, that was the end of Star Trek
5.
That was Rathacon. That was the end of Rathacon. And he said, I feel young.
I feel young.
After Spock died. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's straight. Yeah. So, and it's just, you know, lovely because they're talking about their friendship, which is a very important part of the Next Generation story.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty amazing just getting a chance to have the 2 of them like just interacting with each other, you know. I thought that was really, really lovely. And then I'm just going to tie a few things together, and then I'll let you guys kind of run with the thoughts on the denouement of this episode. But then we get Shaw and Seven on the bridge. Shaw is once again beat to he's had the snot beat out of him. He's bloody in the chair, you know, leaning forward in the chair. He's like, Seven, you take care of it. And Seven, you know, and Seven goes ahead and has them fire torpedoes into the Shrike, which explodes spectacularly as they warp away. And then we're brought to the conference room, where for the first time in 30 years, almost 30 years, we have them all sitting around a table together. So we get Geordi and Data coming in after their conversation, and Troy gives Data a big hug, and it's lovely. And there's a lovely little exchange, and I definitely want to hear from Chris on this, about between Picard and Data about Data's previous death and how he feels about it being alive now. So I very much appreciated that little exchange took place, because I think there have been a lot of concerns about Data, another resurrection taking something away from what was a very, very important part of season 1 of Picard. So they all end up at the table. The conversation, you know, they just have a lot of nice back and forth about just how nice it is to be together. And then the conversation moves to Jack, and Troy kind of takes point on it, and she says that there's a darkness around him. It's not in him, but it's around him. And there's a voice, ancient and weak, sticking with that, ancient and weak, which, you know, basically the bottom line is I need to see your son. I need to go see Jack. So that's where we're left in this episode, is Troy sitting down with Jack to attempt to figure out what's going on with him. So, Chris, I'm going to throw it to you right now because I know you have thoughts about the Picard and Data conversation.
I think it was good that they did have that conversation. It was quick. It was just a few moments, but they acknowledged what happened in season 1, right? And I think it affirmed like how I felt about the whole thing about season 1. I think that, you know, Data says I experienced like death, but now, you know, or that version of me experienced death, but it was something like this version of me, there's more to do.
This is something different, or this is different.
This is different. This is something more. So that I thought was great, and I think needed. Like, so I felt it just, the way season 1 kind of went with that, with Picard and Data, and Data saying, "Hey, I'm ready to die now," and Picard granting that wish. I felt like, oh, I think there would have been more to that than just okay, you're going to grant the wish now. I didn't feel that how those characters are, that would have happened. Right. So I think it's important that they acknowledge it in this season, so that it happened. And I think that saying, hey, this is different, this is more, I think that is good. So I'm glad that they did that for sure. And I think that kind of affirms how I felt about the end of season 1. That's my thought on that. You know, some of the things I appreciate about not only this episode but the season is, like, even though that the moments are very short, the creators of the show are not afraid at all to go back in the history of each of these characters, right? There's 30 years of history of these characters, and they're not afraid to talk about a moment and bring that into the scene, a moment from 30 years ago, and bring that into the scene. And I think that is I think that's terrific. I think there's maybe some creators that would be hesitant about doing that, but I think that just is an honorable thing to do, especially for these characters that have matured and been developing for so many years, and I think gives audience credit too. So because audiences don't want to see something or hear something that is shallow. If we have 30 seconds of dialogue between Riker and Deanna, that 30 seconds, there has been 30 years of things that have happened that go into that 30-second conversation.
Ooh, well said.
And I think they bring that in, and I think that is great that they do that. So you know, that's a lot of appreciation to the work, and kind of and the efforts that they do, and the credit that they're giving the audience. So yeah,
definitely. I feel like we've sort of organically gone into final thoughts on this episode. What do you think, Zach?
Well, you mentioned the term ancient and weak. That sounds like me every Friday night after a long week. That's how I'm gonna feel at the end of this week too, I think. But no, anyways, yeah, I think you really nailed it, Chris, on that. The love and the care for this franchise is evident in every aspect of season 3 of Picard. You have obviously Terry and the masterful job he's been doing running this season and being the showrunner. It's been nothing shy of brilliant. Bringing in, you know, the OGs, the royalty of Star Trek, right? Denise and Mike Okuda, Dave Blass, Doug Drexler. These are people who know Star Trek. They know the franchise. It's not just some other random people that have been brought on to do a job. These people love this franchise. They are fans themselves, and it shows when you have a franchise. Let's take another science fiction franchise. take any other sci-fi franchise, take X-Files, take Terminator, take Doctor Who, take any of these franchises that have massive followings, Star Wars even, take any of those franchises that have massive fan followings, and you'll notice a difference when that franchise is being run by someone who's a fan and who cares, and someone who is just another job to them.
Yeah.
It's very, very evident.
Yeah.
You saw that in Star Wars with the JJ movies and, well, the Rian Johnson there in the middle, I think. But you saw that with the new Disney Star Wars trilogy, Vice, The Mandalorian, albeit season 3 hasn't been that great. But I mean, season 1 and 2 were amazing. It was some of the best Star Wars I think that's ever been made, to be honest with you, outside of the original trilogy. With Picard season 3, this has been some of the best writing and some of the best Star Trek produced, period. And this is coming from somebody who is a massive DS9 fan. All right. So that says something. And I love TNG a lot. I'm a massive TNG fan too. Don't throw barbs at me because you're like, how dare you? I mean, I love the franchise as a whole. So to me, this is just a culmination of so many great things wrapped up into one. And Picard season 3, I think, has won over some of the Star Trek fans who hadn't come over into modern Star Trek. You know, they're the people who are that's like 90s, you know, original Trek only kind of thing. They've bought in. They buy in because of the vision, the attention to detail, the consistent callbacks to previous TNG episodes, DS9 episodes, Voyager episodes, Enterprise, you name it. I mean, and we'll see that even again in episode 9. There has been fan service. At least that's how it comes across in some instances, but it's all been done correctly. Sometimes you see fan services in movies and TV shows, and they're like, yeah, they're just appealing to the fans. It's not really that great. But this is a great blending of amazing writing, amazing storylines and story arcs, and bringing, you know, characters back together, and fan service. This is fan service done right, in my opinion. So hopefully that answers what you were talking about, Jenny. Kind of my final thoughts. Great episode 8. And episode 9 is straight fire. Straight fire. So Jenny, what are your final thoughts on this episode before we dive into episode number 9?
On this episode, I'm just looking. I'm like, did I even? Yeah, where are my notes? I really went off my notes here, guys.
It's okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, where are you? Yeah. So the one thing that I was sort of thinking about, Jack was no, this is all episode 9. Forget Jack. Forget Jack. Don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
The table.
Red alert.
The scene with the conference table. Had episode 9 not happened, we would be talking a lot more about the conference table and the moment of that, and just having all those characters together, because that was epic. Like, as some, you know.
Do you feel, Jenny, like, obviously I'm glad they didn't, but if they had ended the series finale had ended with them sitting around the conference table, I feel like they could have ended in that scene and everybody would have been happy.
Absolutely.
I just think like it kind of reminded me of that scene you have painted behind you from All Good Things, right? With at the poker table, they're all together again. And I don't know what they could have ended it there. I felt like. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't, because we get more. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, and especially because like we said, this episodes 7 and 8 were their own little arc with the Siege of the Titan and Vadic being defeated. So it really was a nice little kind of breathing moment there, you know, where we really are starting the next bit, but we're finishing a part of the story. So it felt like an ending. Like, it felt like it was lovely. And actually, one thing that I loved, I saw somewhere an interview with Michael Torn, and you won't notice it unless you go back and watch it, but when Data and Geordi come into the room, Worf is sitting at the table, and he stays sitting at the table because, as Michael Dorn said, he's like, Worf wouldn't care. Worf would just be like, all right, okay, Data's back, whatever. But it's not like real Data. So let's just get to the let's like he said that Worf doesn't think it's real Data. So he just wants to get to work. So he's just at the table just waiting. Come on, guys, let's get to it.
I mean,
So,
Michael Dorn has played Worf so many times.
right.
He can do it in his sleep, right? So every thought that Michael Dorn has, is that's what Worf really would do, because he is Worf. Worf is him. They're synonymous in that regard. So yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So let's jump into episode number 9. Episode 8 was a doozy. And I think episode 9 is going to be equally, if not more. Maybe not the emotional spot scene that'll get me all emotional, but there's a lot of good stuff in this one. So let's do it. Let's get into episode number 9.
All right. So episode 9 opens basically where we left off at the end of episode 8, with Troy sitting down with Jack to discover what is behind the door in his mind. What is he hiding from himself? What is this mystery? So so we sort of get a kind of Dark Page-esque visual of Troy kind of in his mind with him. They're talking about a little bit about where the red color is coming from, and he says that it's a memory, or he realizes that it's a memory of Beverly when he was a little boy, taking him to this place called the Crimson Arboretum. Like, it was just beautiful flowers. And also is talking about the vines in his visions and how they kind of represent connections, and how it's connections are something that he's always been really drawn to, the idea of connection. And there's also music playing. That's another clearly a song that Beverly used to play. He even mentioned, I think, that it may have been one of the fabled mixtape songs that Picard gave to Beverly in lieu of Wine and Roses. So yeah, but he makes it clear that he is terrified about opening the door. Like, he knows whatever is back there is bad, and he does not want to open it. But Troy, pushes ahead and says, no, we're going to open this. I'm with you. And she goes and she opens the door, and boom, we're back in real time. She is horrified by whatever she's just seen, and basically breaks protocol in terms of any kind of therapy situation, and just bolts out of the room. Like, I'm sorry, I have to go. Leaving him yelling after her, what did you say? So she runs to sickbay, where Picard and Beverly are kind of obviously waiting around to find out what's going on. And she tells them that the voice in his head, what she saw, is the Borg. Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
So, and so they start kind of talking about it and trying to figure out, like, how it's not, Beverly immediately sort of goes into analysis mode. She's like, well, I mean, he's never been assimilated. I've been with him his whole life. There's nothing physically about him that's, mechanical or has any kind of weird technology. But once again, she's always the smartest person in the room, really. Like, she's Beverly Crusher.
Yeah.
And she starts thinking about, okay, so if this is the case and there is some sort of connection with the Borg, how would that have happened? And she's like, well, there's a Locutus here. You, and thinking, okay, well, if it came from you, it would have had to have been organic in some way. So clearly there's a connection there, and she's now, and she because she's a doctor, this is her son, she clearly can't help in the way that Troy is helping, so she's trying to figure out the next best thing, which is, okay, this is fine, but how do I fix it? And Picard is in absolute denial right off. He's like, no, that's impossible. There's no way. I mean, he's horrified at the idea, but he can't even fathom how that would be a thing. And, you know, and Beverly even is the one that says, no, you didn't have Irumodic syndrome. That was, whatever that was in your parietal lobe was something else. And he is absolutely devastated. He's just, you can see, he's just, he's just destroyed. Like, he's just, the idea that this thing that he's carried would then somehow be passed on. He's just absolutely
horrified.
That's the word.
Horrified.
And he's okay, well, you know, I need to go tell Jack it's my responsibility. And then Deanna steps forward and is like, actually, you know, this is a protocol issue. This is a security issue. He's a threat. Like, I wouldn't have just run out of that meeting, you know, if it was, you know, this is a big deal. So so a lot happened in the first, like, 5 minutes of this episode. How are you feeling with this information right off the bat, Zach?
All right, it feels like every time I go first, I feel like I'm in trouble. So debated whether or not I'm going to say this, but I think I'll say it. It makes sense that it's the Borg. A part of me, though, was kind of hoping it wasn't. Because with Picard, you have Locutus, and that seems a little bit obvious, right? That, okay, it'd be a Borg thing. And we've had the changelings, and they've been kind of, as we've learned more, we discovered the changelings and the story behind why these rogue changelings are after them and everything. It just, I don't know, the idea that they're kind of the ones that are trying to bring Jack to the Borg. I'm assuming that, right, as we're connecting the dots, that that Vadic and the changelings were asked to bring Jack to the Borg. That was the whole thing. They were out to get him to bring him to the Borg. Now, why that would be, I don't know. Why would the changelings be working with the Borg? I'm assuming we'll find this out in episode 10, which at the time of this premiering on YouTube and being posted on social media and podcast platforms, it is the day before the final premiere. So we'll probably have some of this stuff answered. I guess because I was so excited about the changelings being the kind of overarching villain again in Star Trek for a series, that I was kind of hoping the Borg thing wouldn't happen, especially because we had this whole Girardi Borg weird thing happen in season 2, which I really didn't think was that whole thing was weird. But I'm not against it. The Borg and Picard are pretty synonymous now, right? I mean, when you think of Picard and you think Locutus and you think the damage that Locutus inflicted, you talk about, he killed Shaw's friends, right? At the Battle of Wolf 359. He killed a lot of people, obviously. He also killed Captain Sisko's wife at the Battle of Wolf 359. Now, like, Locutus had a massive ripple across the Star Trek timeline. So I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know how exactly I feel. I guess that doesn't really answer your question.
No. I mean, this is the point in the episode we don't even have more information really yet.
Yeah.
Like that's, absolutely.
I just don't know yet. I think that there's obviously a lot more to learn. This is all obviously going to come to head on episode number 10. So we'll see. But the Borg, that's, there was a part of me that thought that it might be that. There was a part of me that's hoping it wasn't that, but there's also a third part of me that's like, well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see how they connect the dots. I think at this point in Picard, we're in the second to last episode of season 3. I think at this point, Terry and his staff have earned our trust to say, okay, let's see what they do with this. Let's sit back and let's just see where this goes, because I don't want to speculate and go, oh yeah, here we go. I'm going to let this play out come episode 10. So That's where I'm at right now.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, Chris, let's hear what you have to say.
Chris is
know
like trying to find a shadow.
I know I didn't give some like profound response, so you can,
it was a
can
great
still
response.
have your profound in-depth response as usual.
Well, I do have to, if Terry Metalis does watch this, I think we have to thank him because because Jack was not a changeling. And if Jack was a changeling, then Zach would be having some major like problems with Jack.
I'd having a meltdown right now is what I'd be having. Yeah. So that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, Chris. We did actually talk about that a couple episodes ago, right? That I was hoping and praying he wasn't a changeling.
Yeah.
And I think we're right there. So thank you, Terry. Thank you for not making him a changeling, because that I really do feel like that would have been awful. I really do. It just would have taken out the sail on everything of this relationship building between Jack and Picard, and the father-son building. That would have, and I didn't think that was going to happen, mind you. I said that. I said I don't think this is the case. I just hope it's not. And thank you, Terry. Thank you. Sorry, continue, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. So remember when we were kind of thinking about, hey, what did they take from Picard's body? And so it was like something Borg-ish. So it does, that kind of made sense. And then Jack being Borg, actually, that I don't mind it at all. And I think it's good. I think what I want to see, because they're bringing the Borg back, and Zach, you made a great point, like, because in season 2 there was a lot of Borg in.
Uh-oh, Chris went away. We can't hear anymore, Chris. Your microphone died. It died like Vatic. No. I don't know what happened. We can't hear Chris now. He was talking. All right. Well, there was a lot of Borg in season 2 of Picard. There was a lot of Borg in season 2. Actually, there was a lot of Borg in season 1, right? As well, with the cube that they were fixing up or whatever.
Yeah.
And we got the return of Hugh. And we had all those other characters who were former Borg drones and things like that. So there's been a lot of Borg in Picard season 1 and 2.
Yeah. You able to hear me now?
Yes, you're back now. You returned to the land of the living.
I jostled the connection, and then all was lost. All was lost. So so the Borg, I think it's fine. That's back. But what I really kind of interested in is there's a lot that we don't know about the Borg.
Yeah.
So if they're bringing the Borg back, and this is the deal, right? The Borg are back. I want to know more about them. What are their and what is the origin? Where did they start? Right? Because we don't know that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to explore that. So I'm hoping that. So they talk about the Battle of Wolf 359, so it makes sense that this is kind of the arc. To me, kind of makes sense that this is kind of the arc that they're going. But because there was plenty of Borg in the previous Picard seasons, I think, Jenny, you said it really, really well. I think our last episode, you said there's already been a lot of Borg, right? And so we didn't expect to go this direction. So I think maybe for me personally, maybe that lessened the impact the impact on the realization of Jack. So I'm like, okay, he's got some Borg connection there. The impact to me is maybe less now because they've had this other Borg stuff in the previous Picard seasons. But it's almost this characteristic of season 3 of Picard. It's like it is its own thing. And I feel like they must have, like, after those first 2 seasons of Picard, kind of got together, talked about what went right, what went wrong, and how what needed to happen here. Because season 3 is so different, and I feel like if they're going to bring, they are bringing the Borg back, and I think this is a great way to bring the Borg back, and I think that would have had much more impact for me there wasn't more Borg before. So that,
Right.
so
Well, Borg is the other white meat, right? So we had to have some more of it.
Nice.
I will say there's a moment later that we'll get to, Jenny, when as we wrap up our look at episode 9, where I have questions. I have a lot of questions in regards to the Borg, and it's not the fact that the Borg is in season 3. It's the fact of, okay, what does this mean for the Borg as a whole when it comes to what we saw in First Contact, what we saw in TNG, Voyager? There's a lot of things that I'm sort of confused on about how the Borg operate, how they're structured, these types of things, and I'll get into that later. So
no, that's great, Zach. And one thing to add to the confusion, I was confused, like on end of season 2 Picard, weren't they? Didn't they kind of ally forces, the Federation and the Borg? So
yeah, well,
I can help you with that.
Yeah, Girardi became like this hybrid board looking thing, and I
all right, I got this.
Okay,
awesome.
Good. Please explain.
So, the Borg Queen that they picked up in season 2, they picked up from the alternate Confederation timeline. So the Borg Queen was a prisoner of the Confederation.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So she was an alternate Borg Queen. So right off the bat, we're starting with alternate universe Borg Queen. So
rest in peace, Annie. Rest in peace.
Right? Absolutely. Fabulous Annie.
Yes. Especially in Timeless.
Yeah, right?
Anyways, I totally didn't even.
Yeah.
I guess I have tried to black out Picard season 2 from my memory, because Picard season 3 has been so amazing. It's like, oh, I forgot all about season 1 and 2.
So, now when they did come back to the Prime universe, but in the past, and at that point, that's when the alternate Borg Queen assimilated Girardi, or they sort of assimilated each other. But the thing about Girardi, when they arrived in the past, one of the first things she said was, look out for butterflies. In terms of because she was the one that was like, don't get arrested, don't end up in a hospital, don't let anybody know you're here, don't let anybody know anything about the future. So when she and the Borg Queen became Borgati, or whatever we call them.
Oh yeah, that's what it was, Borgati. Yeah.
And they went off into at that point, it was 2024, and they took the La Serena and left. At that point, Girardi's going out into space with her little Borg cooperative, and the firm belief that you stay out of history's way. So that little collective never rejoined the main collective, never was part of the main collective. So they were just cruising around in space in their little commune, having meetings, I guess. Because they're all agreeing, right? They're all so so at the end of Picard season 2, when they show up at this temporal, what did Borg travel through? What do they call the
transwarp?
Oh, the transwarp conduits.
Yeah. I think it was a transwarp conduit that was opening, and they were there, and that's when they were like, we want to make an alliance. From what I understand, they're just still there manning the gate, basically.
Okay.
But they were never a part of the Borg.
In the Delta Quadrant.
The actual Borg. In the Delta Quadrant, yeah. So they, Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have to go back and review my temporal mechanics books in class, because clearly I need to retake that course over again. I thought I had it all figured out, but apparently not. So
there are people who understand quantum mechanics, and then there are people who don't, and then there are people that do, and then there are people that kind of do, and then there are people that have rabbit feet, and then there are
You lost me at there are people who.
I know. And then there are not people. Yeah. Exactly. So so that's the story, and that is very common. I've spent a lot of time online in the last couple of weeks, and there are a lot of people going, "What about that other?" So.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I have something. I have something I noticed about later part in this episode that I'll bring up when you get there.
Awesome. Oh, I love this. Okay, fantastic. So, yes, a very upset Picard goes off to talk to Jack. And he is, it's, you know, I mean, he's trying to explain to him that you got Borg bits, basically, and
Borg bits.
that it's, yeah, like that it's,
they're a good appetizer.
That I've somehow passed this down to you. I don't understand what it is. I don't, you know, but it's dangerous. We want to send you somewhere safe to protect you and hopefully help you. They want to send him to basically an institution on Vulcan. You know, that's sort of their first thought is, okay, well, we got to fix this, right?
Yeah, send him to the Vulcans. They'll fix him.
Right. So Jack does not like that idea at all. And he's really, you know, Picard is sort of asking him about just, again, there's this conversation about Jack's almost obsession through his life with the idea of connection and seeking it out and trying to make connections with people, or even, as he said, it's a great little quote, like we was talking about, I just couldn't understand why, like if only people could see each other, hear each other, speak in one voice. Like that was something that he felt throughout his life. I feel like that's there's things like Jack and connection. So Picard is saying, you know, no, like we need to, you know, we need to look after you. We need to make sure you're okay. And Jack's like, no, I'm going to fight this. And Picard explains to him that you can't. You don't know what it's like to be assimilated and have someone, this powerful being, making you do the most horrible things you can imagine. And it's this scene, the two of them are just, they're just like, very, very good. So yeah, Jack basically tries to make a run for it, gets to the door, finds that Picard has brought security with him, and Jack, now being able to handle that, just flips his little eye beepies and takes over the security guys, holds off Picard, and off he runs. The next we see Beverly's coming after him, and again, just saying, you're going to get yourself killed. This is not a fight you can win. And he can't accept that. Basically, he's just like, no, like this is, and he says, this is, you know, she's like, what are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish? And he's, and it says, this is futility. This is, you know, resistance is futile, but this is, I'm gonna give it my best shot. So, and again, his security minions manage to hold her off, and he escapes. So we find him, he basically steals a shuttlecraft, takes off a transponder.
Kind of like his old man stealing shuttlecrafts.
Right? I know, yeah, exactly. And he's gone. And we're left with Picard and Beverly looking out the window of the briefing room or observation lounge. And Picard, you know, he got the best of you and the worst of me. Like he is just, I mean, Picard is not okay, folks. Picard is not okay. And Beverly at the same time almost can't even hear what he's saying, because she's beating herself up for not having seen it, for not, you know, how could I have missed it? How could I? So even at the point where he kind of almost turns, there's almost this moment where it looks like he's actually gonna sort of address her. She's like, I have to do something about this, and she's gonna do some science and try to figure this out. But she leaves Picard in the observation lounge, and then Data comes in. And Data, you know, he says, we've lost the shuttlecraft. We can't locate him. would you like me to say something comforting? And Picard is like, no, you can't, it's impossible. And Data just puts his hand on his shoulder, and it's just such a small thing, but it's just such a moment.
Yeah.
So that whole arc there, there was a lot of just raw emotion all the way through that. Chris, what was your experience with that?
You know what I like about the moment between Picard and Jack, when Picard sees Jack. So Picard is coming to Jack in two roles, as an admiral and trying to protect, now he's got to try and protect the galaxy because there's a threat, and then that as a father, and then realizing that, oh, his new son that he just found out is the threat. So there is a moment where as Picard is trying to gently explain to Jack what is going on, and their ideas of what can happen, Jack is reacting probably in the only way Jack could, and he's probably reacting the same way Picard would react in that moment too. And Jack says something to Picard that I was very, very meaningful. Like, Picard, because Picard is saying, well, we have to protect everyone. And Jack says, well, what about your role as a father? Right. So I thought that was a terrific moment there. And it was just, it was, how can Picard, he's so conflicted, right? And this is, of course, Picard having a son is a galactic event. And this is kind of what is going to happen, right? And the kind of the choices and the decisions that's going to have to be there. But I thought that was a great moment to play out, where they're trying to deal with the protocols of containing Jack as a threat, and Picard is having to also deal with Jack is my son, and how do I treat him? And Picard he approached it like more as a admiral trying to, I think, protect the galaxy than he could as a father, in that situation. So I thought that was a neat, terrific, kind of a neat dynamic there. And I think I think anyone in Jack's position, Picard would have done the same thing, and probably Riker would have done the same thing that Jack does, because they feel like this immense responsibility to say, I've got to go take care of this threat. So that was what I was feeling. That's what hit me when I was watching that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Zach?
Thoughts?
Yeah. I think this scene is very indicative of what we've seen across the Picard show, and especially season 3, which is this idea of significant internal turmoil, significant internal struggle, right? This idea of having to deal with, inner demons, interpersonal stuff. There's a lot of internal struggle that goes on. And when you're in a situation like Picard, where you realize earlier in the season that this son that you didn't know is the reason why they're in the situation that they're in, right? Mm-hmm. And this son that that now you have is the reason why this crazy lunatic supervillain Vadic is on board the ship, trying to kill people and death happening and everything else. And now your son's run off, and Picard's gone through a lot of turmoil over the course of these 3 seasons so far. But he's really struggling. Like you said, Jenny, he's really, really struggling. He's struggling to understand how to be his, this Starfleet admiral, retired admiral, this thing that he's known his whole life, right? Starfleet, and be a father. Mm-hmm. and he's dealing with a lot of that. And so I have a lot of empathy for what Picard's going through right now. You can blame him for certain things. Well, you were Locutus and this never would have happened if you weren't, blah, blah. But I mean, did he have a choice at being Locutus? No. The Borg took him and is freaking assimilated him. It's not like he's like, yeah, I'll go try it out. Why not? And then all that stuff happened. Like you kind of briefly mentioned about when they talked about Wolf 359, Chris, in that scene a couple episodes ago with Captain Shaw on the holodeck, and he talks about, you know who your father is? He was Locutus. They gave him a freaking name. That's how powerful he was. And, all the people he killed and all these things Picard is having to face so much in this, but he's not the only one. Everybody's kind of having to face things, and they're having to go through an internal struggle in some capacity. So I think you're seeing more of that. And I love the focus on the characters. This season is driven by so much. It's so character driven. That's why I fell in love with DS9 so many years ago, was because of the character driven mentality. The character development, that the interpersonal struggles, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows of life, and the things that they're dealing with. How do they deal with them? How do they come out on the other side? And I love it.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Oh my God, you guys.
We had a couple weeks in between these recordings.
I know,
so
right?
We had to save all our best thoughts, I guess, huh?
And I think this is great too, because I know that watching this episode, there are a whole lot of people in the chat that all they're thinking about is Picard right now, because the finale is hours away.
Yep.
So getting to deep dive like this, I think, is just fabulous. I hope you all are having fun in the chat. Don't forget to like.
Yeah.
Hit that like button.
And subscribe. All that good stuff. All the interweb stuff. You gotta do the interweb stuff.
That's how bad I am at social media. Is like, I call it interwebs, Zach and Jenny. Like
I love it.
But now it's like it's your staple, Chris. It's your calling card. It's like I'm waiting for you to say the interwebs every episode, because it's like it's like a broadcaster's, a baseball announcer, and there's famous, home run call or something like that, right? I mean,
exactly.
it's your call, Chris. It's your calling.
Exactly.
Calling card. Back when, before cell phones and people had to buy calling cards at the store to go scratch them off to get the minutes to call somebody. That's your calling card, man. That's what it is.
Awesome.
So, after we have this lovely moment with Data and Picard, what happens next? Basically the whole TNG crew assembles for an old-fashioned briefing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be complete without that.
Right? Because they're starting to put the pieces together. They really don't know what's going on. But at this point, they've figured out that, number one, that Jack appears to be that he's different from what Locutus was, that he seems to be a transmitter of some kind, like that this ability that he has, he seems to be able to be transmitting, and that's that weird shape that we saw in the credits. And as well, we actually saw Jack making that with the straw a couple of times when he was in the bar. Little Easter egg. So so we know that the changelings stole Picard's body to get it appears that that it was like some altered DNA that the Borg had left behind. That's what the slight anomaly in the temporal lobe actually was. And that somehow it ties to Frontier Days. So this briefing isn't really very briefy, because all they know is just Frontier Days in danger, something to do with Jack, something to do with the Borg. Yep. We don't know, but we need to get there. So they call up to poor Shaw up on the bridge, and we're like, all right, we got to go to Earth. And
I love this snarky line.
Shaw is not impressed.
No. So good.
He's like, of course we have to go there. It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we're gonna go to the place where the whole fleet's there, whatever, and they're looking for us and this, that, and the other. And he's just like, yeah, why not? Of course.
Exactly. So we warp to Earth. We get there and we get there just in time to see a fabulous fireworks display, whether it's holographic or I don't know what, but whatever it is, it's amazing. And then we see the Enterprise F coming out of space dock.
That was a beautiful ship.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that was the Enterprise.
That was the F.
Yes,
yeah,
and it was
wow.
And it was commanded by Admiral Shelby.
Yes.
The one and only Shelby from Best of Both Worlds.
Exactly.
Snarky little commander trying to take Riker's seat.
Such a nice choice. Like if they were going to bring somebody back, like I feel like that was a very nice choice in terms of
I like Shelby. I mean, her messaging wasn't always the greatest, but she wasn't wrong. She really wasn't, I mean, she's not in the same vein as Jellicoe, but you look at like Captain Jellicoe when he came on the Enterprise, right, and took command, and like he was about efficiency and getting things done. He wasn't about all the hoopla and all the little interpersonal relationship. He's like, we got a mission to do. We got to get this done. Let's go. She was kind of the same way. Like we got to do this, and this, and we got to think through this and to get the Borg taken care of. It wasn't all of this extra hoopla and fanfare stuff. I respected Shelby in the sense that she was down to business. We got to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And she, so there were things about her you could say, yeah, no, you were, she went around Riker's back and different things. Yeah, some of her tactics weren't very good, but I think her intentions were good. So I thought that was awesome that she was the choice, Admiral Shelby, to be in charge of this whole fleet and be the one that's flying the Enterprise F, or not flying, you know what I mean, commanding the Enterprise F.
It's kind of great too because we know that she is a super ambitious person. So, and we know she's younger than Riker. So the idea that she's already an admiral is like very in character for Shelby, like that she progressed that fast in her career.
And she had a lot of senior leadership, it seemed like, in Starfleet that were high on her. Like she was a fast burner. Like I think they kind of had her pegged and tracked to eventually one day get to where she became in Picard, and that made sense.
Exactly. So we get a lovely speech from Shelby talking about what the heck for Frontier Day actually is, which is the 250th anniversary of the launching of the NX-01 Enterprise.
Yes, Enterprise references. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love the NX-01 references.
Oh
so
man,
great.
yeah, and a huge shout out to Doug Drexler.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's really nice. And I appreciated that that they said that it's the anniversary of the launch, which led to what Starfleet is now, basically.
Yeah.
They're not saying that was the start of Starfleet. That was just that's what led to Starfleet being what it is.
Well, it led to the birth of the Federation.
Exactly.
Because there was no Federation until the end of Enterprise, which we won't talk about that finale. But I mean, that the Federation didn't exist. Enterprise in its voyages is what helped bring the Tellarites, the Andorians, and the Vulcans together to form the core of the Federation.
Exactly. And I also very much appreciated that she said that the NX-01 was the first Warp 5 capable vessel built by human hands.
Yes,
so
I love that.
I really liked that. I really liked that they, weren't just like, it's the first one, because it wasn't.
That's right.
It was just the first one that we got around to making. So I thought that was
that
was really great.
I think, and that was very specific to do the shout out to Enterprise. I loved how specific they were in that reference to Enterprise. It was awesome.
Definitely. So, once we've got this lovely speech, then she introduces the announcement of the fleet formation mode, which is the next step in, we've been talking about how the ships can all talk to each other. This is the next step in the evolution of that program. And on the Titan, we've got Picard and Riker kind of sounds pretty Borgy, So I I'm interested to know sort of, okay, like overall here we've got, yeah, I've got, I guess we've gotten some from you here, Zach. Nicely done. So Chris, what are your sort of feelings coming into Frontier Day and seeing all of this and then this fleet formation situation?
Seeing Admiral Shelby was awesome, having
Mhm.
her come back, and then I thought the same thing as probably Picard and Riker, like seeing the fleet formation thing. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of an odd thing, and it's we're touting this as an advancement and wanting uh, to
Mhm.
do it to control the fleet this way, and you just start thinking then they're just a bunch of automated drones, to treat the fleet that way.
Mhm.
So I think I had that same reaction. I'm like going, wow, I don't know if that's such like a good thing to have a fleet formation, or not.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but it was a um, those some of all of those ships that were there.
Mhm.
This is just a random thought that came into my mind. I think wasn't one of them like named the USS Drexler? I think.
Yes,
Yes.
indeedy.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was the Drexler, the Okuda,
Oh
the
yes.
there was the Gilgamesh, a throwback to Darmok.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Yeah, there was the Hikaru Sulu, there was the Pulaski.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pulaski. Yep, saw
Yep.
that one.
Yeah,
Yep.
there was like so many. There's you can actually see the layout, and that's only just the ones that were on the screens. Like because I think there were maybe 350. I think I read somewhere ships
A
Yeah.
lot.
in
Yeah, it
the
was a lot.
formation. Yeah, yeah, it was really, yeah, quite impressive and very cool that they were able to do that. One of them was the Luna, which is actually named after Terry Metallis's dog.
Oh wow.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Luna.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so, what
Real
I
quick though,
thought,
real quick
oh,
on this. I
yes.
had the same thought you did, Chris. I'm thinking to myself, what in the frick is going on here with all these ships getting together? Have they not watched Terminator? This is how Skynet takes over.
Yes.
Yeah, and why does Shelby think this is a good idea? Like, doesn't she have like some shouldn't she
She,
know better?
yeah, she has
So,
experience with the Borg. Like,
yeah.
what the heck?
So
Yeah.
that's something I think that was a really interesting choice with her coming back,
Mhm.
because I think this, like, the the Dominion War has been over for 20 years, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah,
more.
ish. Yeah.
So we don't know exactly when, or did Rose say how long the changelings had been gradually infiltrating Starfleet? I can't remember
Mm,
exactly what the timeline was, but I think it's been a long time. I think they've been at it for a while.
yeah, I don't remember if she said it or not.
I think I think they've been playing the like a very long game. I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about the Borg, in putting this into Picard 35 years ago, um, and then the changelings come on board. Let's say 19 years ago, the changelings are like, all right, we'll get in on this. So they've had a decade, 2 decades to gradually infiltrate Starfleet and convince everyone that this is a good idea. And they did such a good job. They convinced the Borg expert that this was a good idea. And I think that's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really very good way to show just how far the changelings have gotten in Starfleet that this ever even happened.
Yeah. I mean, well, think about
You know?
back to Paradise Lost in Homefront in DS9 and how they
Mhm.
talked about how where the changeling posing as O'Brien tells Cisco, he's like, imagine what if I told you only a couple of changelings were on Earth. Imagine how crazy, like somebody defected, like imagine how crazy it is, the impact that has, just one or a
Mhm.
couple of us, imagine more, whatever. So it
Mhm.
makes you think like, okay, we know there was about 10 of these changelings that were basically put into test tubes and used for
Mhm.
experiments and stuff, along with Vatic, right, is one of them. So there's only 10.
But
and
they're
yet you're
also
talking,
able to pass on their abilities to other changelings. So
yes, but even still, they're the architects of this thing, right?
Oh yeah.
So imagine the amount of work that could be done by just a few changelings. And we saw that during the Dominion War, and we're seeing it again now.
Yeah.
Now, why the Borg connection with the changelings? We don't know if there's a connection yet, if they haven't explained that yet. But
but
enemy of my enemy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. And I think the choice of Shelby as the figurehead of this really drives home just how infiltrated Starfleet actually is. That she was like, okay, I guess it's a good idea. You know?
Yeah, they're referencing this idea back to Best of Both Worlds. And if you think about it, okay, let's think about this for 1 second. Is Star Trek The Next Generation's 2-part episode Best of Both Worlds, which was the season 3 finale, I believe, and the season 4 premiere? You could argue, based on the events of Star Trek Picard season 3, that 2-part episode is the most influential episodes in the whole franchise, given the ripple effect that it has had with the Borg taking Picard as Locutus. I mean, think about it. It has affected every franchise, every series after that.
Yep.
It affected Cisco, it affected Shaw, and it affected so many others we don't even know about.
Yeah.
And now
it gave us the Defiant.
It gave us the Defiant. It gave us all the stuff that happened in Voyager with the Borg. I mean, quite frankly, I'm beginning to think that 2-part episode might be the most influential or impactful episodes in the entire Star Trek franchise.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
I don't know if I'm way off my rocker or not. That's just kind of something that popped in my head where I'm like, the more they reference stuff from Best of Both Worlds and bring characters and stuff in, the more I'm thinking how significantly impactful that 2-parter is to so many events and things that have happened throughout the Star Trek franchise.
Yep. Definitely. So meanwhile, Jack has arrived wherever the Borg are, because we don't know. We just see that he's arrived in this cloud
nebula looking thing. Another nebula shows up.
And the voice is stronger in his head. He actually starts getting like more of that signal kind of situation where it's actually, you can see it sort of physically affecting him. And he boards the ship, which incidentally, I don't see any drones on the ship. So that's, there's just a little note.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any.
So
I thought I saw one in an alcove in the very background. I thought I saw like one, but I don't remember seeing much of anything. Yeah, it wasn't like worker drones around or anything.
So he's looking around for the Queen or whoever the voice is at that point. I mean, he's assuming it's the Queen. And we hear her voice, and it's hello, the voice of Alice Krieger, who was the
I was going to mention that when we got to it. Yes, you're right. I think it sounded a lot like Alice's voice, and I'm like, is that who I think it is?
I know. As soon as I heard it.
Is that the Borg Queen? Because to me, she's the Borg Queen. Alice is the Borg. Like, that's like nothing against Annie. She was fantastic in that role.
Yeah.
She was from a different time period. I'm talking about when you think of the Borg Queen, I think of her from First Contact.
Yeah. Capital T, the Borg Queen. Yeah.
The Borg, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we see eventually, because she's talking to him and saying, "Oh, welcome home, Jack, and I've come up with so many names for you. I've decided I'm going to call you Vox, which means the voice of the many, I think. Like so instead of being the speaker like Locutus, he is going to be the actual voice." And he sees her kind of hanging up on her tubes.
It's like the alien queen.
Yeah. Aliens, and we only see, we only see her from the back. So I really don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
But he tells her he is there to deliver mercy, to kill her. Nice gun.
Yeah.
You mean phaser?
Yes. But she, of course, overpowers him, and he is ding,
Yeah.
assimilated, connected. Yeah. So I mean, it's not a long scene. Like, it's basically he's on the ship and we're off to the races here. So, oh, and one thing that she said, actually, I wrote that down because just again, she's like, Jack, I've been waiting for you. She says, for all my darkness, you are light. For all my suffering, you are life. Interesting.
It sounds like she's almost like she's saying she's gonna pass along the power to him. Like, hey, dude, welcome. Guess what? You're inheriting this. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it came across to me.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, I go back to Troy's description of the voice as ancient and weak, and
Yeah.
I'm really hung up on that. So I'm really interested to see what's up with the Borg Queen in particular. The Borg, as you say, like what's the deal with the Borg now, but also the Borg Queen.
She
the
died in
last
First Contact, though.
but First Contact was before Endgame, before the end of Voyager.
Well, yeah, I mean, it happened in the past because they were back in,
No. Like the end of Voyager happened after First Contact.
Oh.
So she basically
right.
got, the argument is that she used one of those thingies to either transport herself or just re-downloaded herself into a new body, that she didn't die in First Contact, which is how she showed up in Voyager like a year or two later.
Why is the answer always downloading? I just I mean, that sounds like Battlestar Galactica. We just re-download ourselves into a new body.
Yeah. The last time we saw capital T, the Borg Queen, Janeway poisoned her.
Right. In the end of Voyager. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the last we saw. That's the last we saw of the Borg, was them getting quite badly hurt by Janeway on the way out of the Delta Quadrant. So I'm really interested to see, like, what's up with the Borg?
Yeah. I have a lot of questions now. But yes, hopefully they'll be answered. I mean, I believe they'll be answered, but yeah, I have a lot of questions. Yeah.
So, okay, so that's where Jack is. We're just like, okay, there he is. Back on the Titan, we've got the smart kids working on their science. So we've got Beverly and Data and Geordi, classic combination. And they have discovered that this altered Picard DNA that got snipped out of his brain has been integrated into the architecture of the transporter systems all across the fleet. So, and it's been, including on the Titan, and it's been basically sort of tagged as baseline biology. So the transporter assumes that anything that goes through it, that's supposed to be part of it.
Yeah, the biofilters aren't going to recognize it and get rid of it.
Yeah, it's almost like the opposite. It's like an opposite biofilter, where it's like, bloop, some for you, bloop, some for you.
Yeah.
So every pattern that's passed through has had this DNA added to it. And they realize that this pattern thing doesn't seem to have any effect on brains that are fully formed, which for a human is roughly 25 years old. So, hang on. Yes, so as Geordi says, so they've already assimilated half the fleet already, and we didn't even know, basically, that it's already, this Borg tech is everywhere. And given this information, Picard attempts to warn the fleet. He interrupts Shelby's continued speech, but his warning is cut off because all of a sudden all the ships go into like fleet mode, but like power fleet mode, and then the signal from the Borg starts activating all of the partly assimilated crew, and then they all get assimilated. And it's very intense. We see Shelby shot.
Yeah, that was intense.
That was crazy. I know.
That was like a split second, though.
Yeah.
It
So
was.
fast.
I know. And Sydney and Alondra LaForge, the LaForge girls, and so all of a sudden, our heroes are realizing, oh, everyone on the bridge except for us are Borg now. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed as they were leaving, Picard yelled, "Stun only."
Yeah.
Which, considering how it was in First Contact, I think that's a nice little quick note to sort of how he's evolved in that respect.
Well, plus, I mean, they're not like Borg drones. They shouldn't be able to adapt to phasers or anything at this point, given what they have. I'm kind of confused though. This gene or whatever that's in. You probably don't want to, but
no, that's like
this gene or whatever that's been transferred to everybody through the transporters and all this stuff. How did that gene assimilate them? I mean, I don't think the gene would have Borg nanoprobes and stuff in it, would it? I don't know.
We don't know. Like, kind of maybe, but it's less about. I think it's because the nanoprobes are about the technology, right?
None of them had the technology popping out of there.
Yeah,
so
right?
it's maybe it's a more of an evolved way for the Borg to be able to adapt or assimilate or something. But then again, without the technology, they also do become more vulnerable to being killed easier, right? I would think. They don't have the technology to be able to adapt and all that stuff. And so it's very interesting. I'm still trying to decide how that would work, but maybe there'll be more to it later.
I mean, I'm assuming that the signal that they got was from Jack, like the Queen sending that out through him because she plugged him in and then this happened. So he's the transmitter. He's activated it. We don't know how.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. It modified part of their DNA to be able to receive those instructions. I remember when Beverly it was either Beverly, I think, showing that DNA strand and showing, hey, it modified our DNA.
Yep.
Yeah. Doesn't this affirm? Was it? I think Dr. Pulaski and Dr. McCoy did not like using transporters.
Yes.
So. Well, neither did Barclay either.
Barclay, yes.
He was scared to death of him. He had transporter phobia.
Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because if you go back, Rose said no transporters, so she knew something was up. But also, some of the changelings transported, but other ones were like no transporters. So there's and Vadic and her crew took a shuttle back and forth.
Yeah.
Which is it's interesting. I'm not sure why.
And in Enterprise they had a fair amount of inhibitions towards using the transporter because obviously it was new, right? They didn't transport unless they had to. So
that was fantastic.
If you think about it, right? If we had the technology today, would you be leery of wanting to use it and having all your atoms scrambled and hoping you show back? And what happens if it's the whole movie, The Prestige, where is it me showing up or is it a copy of me? Who's actually transported on the other side? I would be, the idea of being able to live anywhere you want, work anywhere you want, beam over to New Orleans and have lunch and that's amazing. But then there's the other part of it where I don't want to beam and my guts come out or something like that. So that's a good point you brought up, Chris, with the Pulaski and the Dr. McCoy and the transporters.
Yeah, you brought up some great points. Oh, both of you, Jenny and Zach. And there are great essays written about this, so you can go find.
I know.
My favorite character in the whole franchise started out as a transporter chief. Well, not quite. That's kind of he's mostly known initially on TNG as a transporter chief. So kind of have an affinity for the transporter.
Oh, definitely. So, so we've got our heroes on the bridge. Narrowly escape the bridge, end up in the turbolift, and they overhear through just the fleet-wide comms the Excelsior
Oh yeah.
saying we've taken the bridge back. We need help, and then realizing that the fleet still has control of the ship and is moving the ship into firing range, and the ship is destroyed. Interestingly enough, if you look at the readout, one of the ships that blew up the Excelsior is the Hikaru Sulu.
Oh,
Dirty.
oh,
Yeah, I know. I was like,
oh
I
my.
know. Yeah. So that happens,
Sorry, I
but
couldn't help
which is
myself.
awful. No, that was perfect. So that happens, which is awful, but it makes Shaw think, okay, all the ships are connected. He's thinking about that. And once again, Shaw, just thinking, realizes that there are maintenance shuttles that are not connected to the network.
Yeah.
On
That's right. He's a grease monkey, as he called himself.
Exactly. So he's like, okay, new plan. So they're all going to meet up on the maintenance deck. Sorry, losing my words. And so they do that. They arrive on the maintenance deck. The turbo lift opens. It's a classic phaser standoff.
Yeah.
And we get that awesome line from Troy. You know, I've never been so happy to see so many wrinkles, which is nice. I love there's a few lines like that where they're just, you know, like, oh
yeah, you're breaking the tension a little bit.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's great writing. It's great writing.
It really is. They've done such a nice job all through, and I mean, even as this episode goes on, there's more, you know, more just little funny moments that are just so Star Trek and so perfectly inserted.
Yeah.
So we've got the plan. They're trying to get to the shuttle, and of course, we've got a firefight. Shaw and Seven say, "Go, go, 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 go! Get out of here!" And Shaw is hit. Shaw is hit. And he goes down. Seven runs to him and is telling Raffi to go. Raffi's like, no, I'm not leaving. Forget it. So the rest of our crew leaves in the shuttle, and we're left on the deck with the dying Shaw and Seven and Raffi. And Shaw finally calls Seven by her actual name, and gives her command of the ship. He says, "This isn't my ship anymore." Yeah, so that happened.
But did he really die though? That's the question. You can't have a spin-off series with Captain Shaw if he dies. Just saying, Terry. Just saying. There's ways to bring him back. We've seen it. Maybe he doesn't die all the way. Who knows? I want to count our chickens before they hatch yet. We don't know. There's a lot of us fans who want to see a Captain Shaw spinoff series. We know you can do it, Terry. We know you can do it. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. That's all we're saying. A lot of fans like Captain Shaw quite a bit.
It's true.
It's like the thing with Hemmer in season 1 of Stranger Worlds. We're all like, wait, did they just kill off Hemmer? Everybody loved Hemmer.
Yeah.
Everybody like a lot of people love Shaw. So hopefully he didn't actually die. Hopefully it's in that moment, and then, you know, I don't know. Maybe. I'm trying not to grasp at straws here, guys, but I'm being hopeful. All right, I'm being hopeful,
optimistic.
What do you think about that? Are you feeling hopeful, Chris?
I thought he died. Sorry.
I thought he died too, but I'm like, well, maybe he didn't though. Maybe he doesn't.
You know, Shaw is Jenna, you're right. This was an incredible scene between Shaw and Seven. You know, not tremendously long, but you know, Shaw recognizes and sees Seven as who she is and calls her by her name. And I thought that was just that was wonderful for Shaw to do that. And Shaw's like this every man's kind of captain, right? So he's not this larger than life Picard or this larger than life like Riker. He's like every man's captain that kind of came up from the ranks of maintenance. And And if I could make like an analogy to Zach's favorite character, O'Brien, right? So O'Brien,
Hello.
right. This is and then
my ears just perked up,
yeah,
Chris.
an analogy to that, right? There's a lot of similarity. Like they're both came from engineering and maintenance, and were grease monkeys and came up. And you just Shaw dealt with the situation the best that he could deal with it, and was so instrumental in them like surviving and making it through, and he gave his ultimate sacrifice there. So I thought it was your Shaw was just an awesome character. And yes,
Chris, I got to give you credit, man. Of all the episodes of this podcast that we've done together,
yes,
that might have been my favorite analogy you've ever made on our show so far. Might have been my favorite one. You brought up the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Chief Miles Edward O'Brien. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think so. He doesn't seem larger than life. He seems like somebody, somebody you're down in the trenches with, you're working with, and he rises through the ranks in maybe a little bit more of an unconventional way to become captain. So it's wonderful. Wonderful. Well done, Chris. Well done.
Why, thank you. Yeah. So I'm really sorry to see that Shaw.
I know.
I mean, I
was glad to see him get the chance to be the one who saves everyone else.
Yeah.
Because that was such a big part of his experience and his trauma. So that he was the one that was sending them all and staying behind.
Yeah.
That was, and it was interesting too. I mean, I saw somebody noted the fact that I mean there were 10 people on his the escape pod that he got in. I think there was enough for 10. I think he said,
I think it was 10.
I was number 10.
Yep.
Yeah. The interesting thing, if you actually count the characters, you've got your seven TNGs, Rafi, 7, and Shaw makes 10, which I mean, and obviously he didn't make it, but it's just it's interesting, but but I was very sad to see him go. Like I wasn't ready for that,
I don't think anybody was ready for that.
No.
Terry, he doesn't have to be dead. There are many ways around this, okay?
Terry
We're just
knows.
saying, we love Captain Shaw. Bring him back, please. That's it.
That's awesome.
That's it.
So that brings us, we had a quick little moment with Geordi and Data on the shuttle before everyone else came on.
Yeah.
And Geordi's trying to figure out, what we're gonna, what are we gonna do? And Dana's like, what, us against the whole fleet? We're screwed. Geordi's like, can you be a little more optimistic?
I
felt more positive.
Yeah, I felt like I'm gonna get flack from Doug on this crossing the streams, but it's almost like a C-3PO moment. Like the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field are approximately 3,720 to 1. Never tell me the odds.
Exactly.
That's how I felt. It's like a Data had a C-3PO moment there.
Yeah. Like, I hope we die fast. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
That was awesome. So we get our family on the shuttle, and Geordi's got a plan. So, they're all thinking like, what are we going to go up against the fleet in this maintenance shuttle? But no, they've warped away back to the Fleet Museum. Because Geordi has a plan. And it's the best plan in the world.
Yeah.
The best plan in the world. So I literally, at this point in my notes, it's just Geordi and Data. Back to the Fleet Museum. Hangar Bay 12. Let's talk about the outside of the ship. Let's talk about the inside of the ship. So
yeah, the reveal of this was spectacular. Getting the Enterprise D back. I saw somebody write this online, and I think it's wonderful. I don't remember who it was that wrote this. and I think it's wonderful. And I thought to myself, yeah, they're 100% right. And that is, I didn't realize how much I needed the Enterprise D back. I was like, yeah. I mean, for as much as I talk about the Defiant and DS9's love, I love that freaking ship. The Enterprise D is so iconic. It's such a beautiful thing. And to get this ship back, for them to reveal it the way they did from both the exterior, like you said, as well as the interior and that shot on the bridge. And we talk about that too, obviously. It was simply beautiful. It took me back to my childhood, like so many for many of us, right? It took us back to our childhood, and watching reruns of TNG and see, renting the VHS tapes from Blockbuster Video to get 2 episodes at a time to watch TNG, those types of things. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It really, really was. I know Chris is as much of an aficionado of TNG as you are as well. What was when those bay doors open and the D comes out? What was going on inside you?
I agree. It was beautiful. It was nostalgic. I had a I'm sorry. I had a conversation with someone during my travels, and each of us, like when we have something, whether they're a teacher or a mentor or someone in our lives, we have this vision of like them at a certain moment in time in their lives, a certain age, in this certain environment, right? So that was what I felt when I saw the Enterprise D. I mean, not only it is a beautiful design, it's a beautiful ship. It's gorgeous and it's there. But the idea that this is the environment where this gathering of people like came together and created something like extremely special, right? And so we all have this image in our mind of what that looked like. It's, and when we're not watching the episodes, when we're just thinking about it, then we go back to this image, and it's the Enterprise D, and it's the crew, and they're all there together, like as a family. And I think each of us, like individually, like again, as I said, like if we've got it, if we have a teacher or a mentor or a coworker or a family member that we think about in our past, there's that image that we have of them, right? And that image might be 30 years ago, and then they've aged and they look completely different now. And we have those interactions, but when we go back, we still go back to that image that we have from 30 years ago, and that's what it was to us. So for them to bring that in this episode, I thought was fantastic. It's more than it's more than fan service. I think it is acknowledging that the importance that this family means to all of us that have watched like Star Trek over the years, right? The impact that they've had for us. So it was interesting that I had this type of conversation before I saw this episode, but
oh, cool.
That happened before I saw it and before I knew that was going to happen. So that was the effect it had on me. I mean, of course I admired like just the beauty of it, both the exterior and the interior, but just that kind of human effect has on our memories and how we feel about the things that are important to us.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny? How did you feel? I mean, I believe the external view, we see initially as they're right before they come onto the bridge, right after they go onto the bridge, and then they come on in the interior, the lights come on, you see that beautiful friggin' bridge with the carpet, Chris. And no shiny floors to see here.
That's right.
That's right. No glossy here. It's back to the way it was. What were your feelings when you saw that?
Like there was a lot of crying. There was a lot of and I am a person who cries from joy a lot. Like it's a family trait, honestly. But I was absolutely just overwhelmed with just, this is so right and so true to them, and very much what you said, Chris, just that place and those people in that moment in time live here for me. So to see them walk back into it and see them, it almost feels, I am a completely different person now than I was when I I'm still me, but we're, a lot's happened.
Yeah.
In between me sitting on that couch at 13 watching and now, and this puts me into that moment that lives here. The me now got to be in that. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying, but it let me, and I'm saying me, but I feel it's all of us. It's let us revisit that moment and that place and those people, but as ourselves now. And I think that's it. It's like, it's very special. It's just, and just seeing how perfectly they put that set together. Like there's this amazing kind of like behind the scenes, in front of the camera thing that's happening in my brain when I'm watching this, because I'm so in the moment with these characters, but I'm also so overwhelmed with how grateful I am to the people who have created this. And I'm thinking about how exciting it must have been for them to be doing this, whether it's the actors or whether it's, the idea of Doug Drexler excitedly walking around that space, pointing at things and being like, no, we need to move that a little bit. Like, it was amazing.
They say time travel doesn't exist, but it did.
Exactly.
In this episode. This was time travel at its finest. Nostalgia is very powerful. Mm-hmm. When we have things that mean so much to us in certain moments in our lives and we get a chance to revisit those, that nostalgia is super powerful, like potently powerful. Mm-hmm. And that was the case in this instance, I think. I love when they say, well, we can't use the Enterprise E because with Worf, and Worf's like, the Enterprise E was not my fault. Or like, wait a second, Worf, what happened with the Enterprise E? I wonder if we'll find that out or not in the last episode. And then they're walking around on the ship, and I'm sure, and I wonder, I would love to ask Terry this, is that the shot of them coming back on the bridge for the first time is the shot that we saw on screen. Was that the first time they stepped on, so that they could have like legitimately real emotions from seeing this from the first time, and the first time they see it is while they're being filmed? I would love to ask that question. If the first time they saw that bridge was when they yelled action and the doors open up and they all walk on, the lights come up and they're everything, and then the line that absolutely made me die laughing, I instantly thought of you, Chris, was when Picard walks over to the dedication plaque, and he goes, "You know what I miss the most about this place? The carpet."
Yeah.
The carpet. I almost I
Amazing.
fell out of my chair. I died laughing. It's so funny.
One of the parts that I thought was very moving about that was when they activated the computer.
Yeah.
And you hear the right.
Oh, and you hear Majel's voice.
Yeah.
Isn't
That's
it amazing
when I went
what they
from
can
weeping to sobbing?
sobbing? I mean, it's amazing what they can do with the AI technology for the voices to be able to recreate them and use her, because that's only fitting. You can't have anybody else's voice as the computer on that ship. You know, you just can't.
I hadn't even thought of it until it happened. That was what I loved about it. Like I had no expectation of that happening, and it just. And again, it's like you didn't know how much you needed to see it or to hear it until it happened, and you're just like, the thing about the Enterprise for me, and actually it was only today that like I've been sitting with this for days, but when I watched Generations and they blew up the star drive, I was crying because that's what I do. But I was like, I could not believe this was happening. And then the saucer is heading for the planet, and Data's swearing, and this is, and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. They're gonna land it. It's gonna be okay. It's fine. It's fine. And then it smashing in the trees and the dirt and and I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. And then they're on the ground, and Picard's digging through garbage on the bridge, and they're just like, well, will they build another one? I don't know. And then
plenty of letters left in the alphabet.
Like everyone was like, oh, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. So I think a lot of Star Trek fans though didn't like the idea that they destroyed the D in that. Yeah. I really don't. I mean, that was an iconic ship, and I thank you, Terry, for bringing this ship back, because and they did it in a way that made sense, right? Like they had the one section. They also had the soft section, but they pulled off Viridian 3, and then God bless you, Geordi, spending the better part of 20 years to restore it. Amazing. Like, even though Worf said he liked the weapons on the E better, right? And then who was it? Was it Beverly or somebody's like Worf, and he's like,
it's Deanna.
He's like Worf, and he's like, well, these weapons are adequate. Whatever. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like realizing that absolute crime, as far as I was concerned, that saucer had been left on that planet. The real and this is today, I just realized this. I was like, oh my God, that has been fixed. I can actually go back and watch Generations now. I think I've watched Generations maybe 3 times in 25 years because I couldn't handle that. Like I was just that's just wrong. So the idea that Geordi got that, like it. And there's actually, if you look at there's a couple of shots, you kind of have to zoom in on them. I'm a big nerd about this stuff, you guys. But he said that he hasn't done the paint job yet, and that the hull is still messed up, and you can actually see the scrapes on the bottom.
Oh, I didn't see that
from the landing. I feel like justice has been done to this ship, and I am.
Yeah, I don't think anybody blames you for not watching Generations. There, I mean, that's because you have the terrible death of Kirk, the way they killed him off. They destroy the D. Ask me how many times I've watched the season finale of season 6 of DS9. Ask me how many times I've watched that episode where Jadzia dies. Go ahead, ask me.
How many?
Yeah.
One time.
Yeah.
One time. I just skip over the episode altogether. It's the same thing. I mean, you have something where you just something happens and they're like, I can't watch this. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
So the interior sequence, the view of the ship. I'm gonna go back and look and see for those scrape marks. All these things at the end of this episode were so unbelievable. I mean, it so many things brought back that either have corrected stuff in our mind, have brought stuff together. When Data's like, "Hello there, chair. I've missed you," or whatever. Oh yeah, that was classic too.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was absolutely it was because the ship in Star Trek, the Enterprise, is a character. You could argue it is the main character in the show. So it's like bringing back a character. It's like when they brought back Data, they bring back the Enterprise. Like, okay, the Enterprise is back. The crew is all back together. Everything is right again.
Yeah,
everything's right again. And it's wonderful. I think that this episode, what I mean, I remember when I watched it and then I posted it on our Random Redshirt podcast Instagram page. I said, "Wow, guys, like this is fire. Like this is just so many emotions, so many things." Just when you think there can't be too much more, or there can't be any more emotion or anything else, Terry and his crew have found a way to pack it in and excite us and make us weep, and for both good and bad reasons, and get us fired up. It's just this has been fantastic, and we got one more to go. I don't know how long the finale is going to be. I'm thinking it's more than an hour though.
I think it is. I think I saw today it is 63 minutes, so it's not that much more than an hour.
I was hoping it was like Terry. I was hoping it was like an hour and 20 minutes, like a short movie. All right.
I know. But I also, I mean, seeing what they've done through this season in terms of the pacing, in terms of how much, like you said, how much character work they're managing to fit into a 30-second conversation.
Unbelievable.
You know, I feel like this is going to be a huge hour. Like I feel like
oh my gosh,
there's going to be a lot that happens.
They're going to pack stuff into 10 seconds that we're like, wait, what just happened? What?
Yes. Yeah.
How did that happen? You know? All right. So let's wrap it up. We looked at episode 8. We looked at episode 9. Lot of review, long episode. For those of you who've been watching or listening along with us, we appreciate you sticking with us. We know this has been long, but it was necessary to cover so much goodness in these 2 episodes of Picard. Absolute last final thoughts. Mind you, we're recording this and this is coming out the day before the finale. So really quick, any last things on your mind you guys want to share as we have wrapped up these 2 episodes and we're going in the finale? Chris, let's start with you.
I hope, and I'm looking forward to learning more about the Borg, and hopefully we get the origin of the Borg, and I think that would be great to do. One of the things I've been thinking about for the Next Generation crew, that I don't think they can do this, but you know, Q and Q's kind of presence in season 2 of Picard. For me personally, Q was the catalyst for them meeting the Borg in the first place. And Q is part of this Next Generation team, the entirety of the team, in a big way. So I feel like, I wish there was an element of Q that could be in this season 3 of Picard, because they've wrapped in so many kind of elements of TNG in here. That's not to say that what they did in season 2 with Q and Picard personally wasn't great. That was great. that was beautiful. But I almost wish Q has a sense of belonging in what this has become now. And so that's just something I've been thinking about. But I'm looking forward to watching our finale this week. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
I'm so excited. I feel like I'm not ready because I don't want it to be over. You know, this 10-week experience in terms of the fandom, in terms of, you know, getting to do this with you guys, the experience of watching this week to week as a big family has been just so cool. Like it's just been amazing. I did want to mention Brent Spiner is a genius. Like he's amazing. And I just wanted to, because this new Data that he's playing is different from what we've seen before in a way that is just wonderful, because he's bringing in Lore's emotions, and it's something that I almost felt like before when Data had the emotion chip. I felt like it didn't, there was something a little too Lori about it, and I feel like he has he I just find he's just more even. Like it's you know, if he's happy, if he's sad, there isn't, it's very very just organic, and it really genuine. I'm really excited to see what else happens. Like I said before, I came into this season with zero expectation of seeing Data at all. I thought it was going to be Lore. So the fact that we've gotten this extra,
yeah,
is just really really cool. Like everyone, and I feel like in this final episode we're going to get some resolution with everyone. That's my confidence in the writers.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it because I know they're going to give us something amazing. I'm on board 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm not ready for it because I'm not ready for it to end. Kind of like you said. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. But I'm also scared to death at where I'm going to be at emotionally when the episode ends. I mean, there's talks and rumblings, you know, there's some more, something that's going to, some legacy show that's going to spurn off of this, maybe. That's great. But this very well may be the last time we get this whole cast together like this on screen. So I'm really nervous about this, and because this journey, this experience that we've had, of being able to, and I'm so glad, Chris, that we made the decision to do this episode by episode review, something we had not done on this podcast before. We had not done this. This was a new thing, because we had formatted our reviews differently, and I'm so glad we've done this. I think it's opened this format up to other things down the road that we'll announce later. And having you on, Jenny, has been fantastic. You know, the different angles and thoughts and some of the stuff that I was never thinking about, and bringing all that in has been fantastic. And I'm looking forward to running it back one more time, all three of us, and talking about Picard again. But it's going to be hard not to want to talk about Picard every week like we have been. I know it will be fun when Strange New Worlds comes out and we get new episodes every week of that to be able to share with the Star Trek family and stuff. But you know, Strange New Worlds, as great as it's been, it's not the TNG cast. It's not the same. So, TNG is the gold standard of the franchise. So I'm eager and excited to watch the episode. I'm scared to death knowing how emotional it's going to be to watch it end.
Yeah.
I know that they have said that we're going to be all happy with how, you know, all the characters are wrapped up, and it'll be kind of a happy ending, it sounds like. But regardless, I'm nervous, not because I don't trust Terry and the writers and what they've done with the show. I'm just nervous about how I'm going to be affected by it. I know it sounds a little selfish, but that's just how I think about it.
Not at all.
Anyways, but yeah, so for those of you listening or watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for doing this. Jenny, thanks for running episode 8 and episode 9 down.
Thank you
for everybody watching and listening. That was great synopsis and review there. We do appreciate you all, as always, all over the globe and the interwebs, for tuning in and watching us on YouTube or whatever your favorite podcast platform is. Again, be sure to go on to Instagram and Facebook and check us out. Jenny Johnson's also on there with her art, so be sure to check her out on there as well. And we look forward to sharing our review of the finale coming this weekend at the time of this recording. where we run it all back one more time and we share our thoughts. And that's going to be an emotional one. I think that review is going to be emotional. So bring your tissues, bring your cough drops, whatever you need to get through it, because we're probably going to need that too.
Yep.
And we appreciate you as always for watching, listening everywhere. Take care, everyone, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Red Shirt Podcast.